victimizers beware. The racist and biggest greatest nightmare. Social justice warriors. Get triggered.
It's the bias response team.
If you've been offended, your feelings must be defended. Go! The freedom of expression is a microaggression. Here comes Angela Freddy. He's always ready to fight fascism with fascism.
Starbucks windows don't stand a chance.
Ethic enhancer. He's a systematic racism finder. Using the powers of screaming and shame, they win every debate by calling your name. They're heroes who think that they're victims. Social justice warriors. Get triggered.
I can't do this anymore. I'm literally sick. I'm literally sick to my stomach. What has happened to America? No! No! No!
We are fucking over, you fucking dumbass. I hope that you choke on a piece of concrete and literally go to hell.
How did we get here? How did we get here? I can't believe this country did this again. What in the Alice in Wonderland nightmares is going on right now? All I can say is how fucking dare you.
If you voted for that man, if you voted for anybody other than Kamala and you live in one of the states that it was, you know, close, or if you didn't vote, fuck you.
It's not gonna happen. Go, read and screech, read and screech.
I chose family, I chose women, I chose America. I love you.
I personally think that if all of these men are voting to take our rights away, they don't deserve to touch a woman for the next 4 years.
How the fuck is this still happening? All I've ever known politically is hatred.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done with you and your mother and your sister. I'm just done with all of this.
I'm sorry. So my friends who are true supporters. You don't understand how scared of this man I am.
Fuck being skinny, fuck being hot, fuck being all the things that the patriarchy wants us to be.
This is a PSA for any of the ladies that have been seriously considering divorcing their husband.
I got one more fucking cigarette in me before I start lighting your asses up.
Why? 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 Do you really hate me that bad? Morality, and now we're facing me as mortality. They lost the plot, we'll take a stand. These corporations must perish when we claim our land. Enough is enough, we've drawn the line. We'll take back our stories, a spark divine. The will of the fans, a storm on the rise. We won't be silenced by the hollow lies. We claim the legacy, break the chains. These companies must die for our world to remain. They can't take our passion. We're holding the gates for every fan stands protecting the will to create. We are the true keepers, the defenders of glory.
I'm done! I'm done with you!
Cope and seethe. I love that stuff. It's good fun. Yo, everybody, and welcome back. You are watching Will of the Fans, and my name is Will. See what I did there? Welcome back to WTF Live. Yeah! Let's do it.
Indeed.
Gotta do it. Gotta dig that, man. I love that dance has gone viral. It's been going for a while, but now that everybody's celebrating, it's just so funny to watch a bunch of people standing on the spot dancing like they're 80 years old, you know, and white, so have no dancing ability anyway. And we have a lot of things to talk about. Yeah, I thought it would probably be back to normal by now, but then I also underestimated the magnitude of what happened last week. So
4 more
I guess
years.
we'll be talking about this for a little while, but we'll blend it in with the geek world, and that has been doing quite the little freak out lately. So tonight's top story then really is still Trump. The games industry and the left in general are melting down over Trump being president 47 and his various so far amazing picks for staffing. Trump, meanwhile, will be signing legislation apparently to ensure freedom of speech returns to all social media platforms, including this one.
This is pretty baller stuff.
I mean, I'll just be happy if I can say Nazi beginning with an N instead of having to use a Y for once. That would be kind of nice. And of course, we got a little bit of Rush news, although we probably won't rush. We'll just do it all in sequence anyway. Dragon Age has doomed itself. No one's buying it. Refunds are everywhere. The game is toast. It's pretty much the epilogue of this story, unless somehow they manage to spin it into something else. And somehow the left have begun to actually run out of people to blame. For their massive losses as the world finally wakes up and it becomes acceptable in the mainstream to ask the question, is woke a fucking joke? And I'm just really enjoying watching them realize how much every single person that isn't radically left-wing hates them so much that they would literally deliver them the biggest loss they've ever had. But before all that, I'm joined as always. What?
I was going to say,
go on then.
Oh, sorry.
Are you married, John? What's that on your finger?
I got one of these.
He's completely fucked.
Give me the floor, and it just turns into a robot.
I know. As soon as I went to say, I was like, oh my God, I'm roboting. But yeah, no, like, Jesus. You know what? That's just the computer's way of telling me to shut the fuck up for a minute and let you introduce Will. So.
I mean, I'm literally about to introduce you anyway, because I was just going to say I'm joined as always by the Fuckall brothers, Mr. Ryan Roger Athay and Mr. Problematic White Guy. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, Will, and I have multiple names now. It's not just reality-based. It's also Mr. 480p, the creepiest name on planet Earth. I'm also known as the HR nightmare and the PR nightmare, especially if I cause problems. But it's great to be here, folks, and hopefully we have a great talk about topics of the day and the magnitude of what's going on, folks. That is a sight. Yeah, that is a sight to see. And if Trump can be the channel suppression slayer, then hell, I might not be a PR nightmare anymore. I'll be able to say anything and dare say everything. John, we're going to have to base, for lack of a better term, reality-based in your part of the world. You get all the liability, I get all the credit, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Suddenly, all of YouTube will be based in America. I'll no longer be based in the Philippines, at least not officially. I'll be based in America as well. Although I think actually the company makes the rules, so it doesn't matter what country you're in. We'll get to it later. In the meantime, John Boy, how you doing?
Oh, I'm awesome as always. I will try to be less of a chuckle fuck, but like the good thing is it already spurred doubt with the the internet already, so hopefully that won't happen while I'm saying my hellos and whatnot.
Have you tried doing this, John?
Are you running your VTube avatar while you're
No. This is just a video loop. It's just video.
Oh, right.
Yeah, this is just on a Roku. That's like the only thing it shares technically is like a little bit of bandwidth, but I'm only at 14% on my resource usage. No, I think this laptop is definitely in its final days. So I might at some point in time.
You said that. I don't know why. Go on anyway.
That's all right. But yeah, no, like I'm trying to get things situated. I've actually got something which I'll talk about later in the coming up stuff at the end of the show. But hopefully there might be a pathway to me actually making some possible money here online, like doing things. But no, things are good. And yeah, like I was basically just going to say to the effect that you've got 4 years of being able to mix Trump in with like, the news going forward, because there will always be someone who's spurting out for the next 4 years.
I mean, I'm just enjoying how front loaded it is at the moment. Like he hasn't even been in office for a day yet and won't be for another 2 months. And we've got international leaders calling him. He's scaring the shit out of everyone in the world with his staffing picks. Like he's got the House, that's confirmed. So he has all three branches of government. And that means that he can now do whatever he originally intended to do, but with the knowledge of who the hell actually is part of the swamp and who not to hire. In many ways, the 4-year gap between his terms is the best thing that could have possibly happened. It just means you had to go through 4 years of the utter shit that we have, you know.
Right.
See the mask off the enemy, you know. We see what they will do with the world if no one stops them. Now it's time to stop them.
Right. And yeah, and like I say, sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone. And if the worst thing you have to deal with for the most close, effective thing we can have for world peace, given the variables at play in today's climate, is some mean tweets and a guy who kind of like heckles you a little bit. Yeah, there are worse things in the world to try to.
Thanks, Joe. We're going to do a lot about a lot. That's a direct Trump quote.
That is literally he's been watching American politics out of context, which is always hilarious. The sort of things that get said compared to British politics, which is just a lot of waffling and here. But yeah, I mean, the framing device of this whole thing it's been a week now. It's sort of settled down. I'm still I feel like as non-Americans go, I'm like the happiest one in the world. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that even though I'm not an American or ever lived there, I've only been there for like 2 weeks my entire life. I've been in this fight, aware of this for 10 years from having to sit silently while all my friends were mocking Trump and quietly thinking, why does everybody fucking hate this guy so much? He's never done anything. To laughing at them when he got elected because it was just the ultimate troll moment, to then moving across the world, finding myself disconnected from my own politics and feeling the trickle-down effects of American politics around the world as I got more and more involved in the pop culture element of this fight and how it destroyed Doctor Who, Star Wars, Star Trek, fucking Lord of the Rings, everything, one after another. Game series have all flopped as well, all as the woke shit gets involved. So now finally watching a bunch of people come together and deliver just the most ultimate feel-good vibes that I think I've ever had in my adult life of observing any country's politics. If the smiling people are all doing this, and the people who are like cursing each other and condemning everyone around them, cutting ties with the loved ones, and absolutely just lying awake at night in terror, are the left. So how can you ever even, like, if you look at this objectively from any fucking angle, it's so very, very clear who the good guys have been all this time. And so for me, that's the ultimate gratification after a decade of this crap, being on the periphery. Now being involved as a person with a channel who participates in the culture war, this is just glorious. When the time comes, Merry Christmas to Donald Trump.
Yeah, a lot has changed these past 10 years, and it's good to see.
No doubt. Like, I may be John Richards' problematic white guy, but Donald Trump is like the biggest problematic white guy on the planet, you know?
Yeah.
And
how long will that be a thing now? You know,
well,
It's
you know, I
starting
think
to
I
crack.
think it'll be there for some people forever, you know, but not so much in a bad way. It's kind of like that thing about, like, you know, I jokingly tell people, even people that like me have to deal with me kind of being a little bit of a you know, bag of dicks. Like, my last name is Richard, so, you know, sometimes you just have to choke down on a few. Like, but that's kind of Trump, you know, like he is who he is, and he's undeniably that, and, like, you know, like he's may not be who, like, a lot of people want. But for the situation that we're in for right now, like, people that are called into this,
the wettest hurricane in the history of water. That's another Trump quote.
And your first name's John too, so technically your penises.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's
why I say I'm a bag of dicks. Exactly. That's why I say a bag of dicks. You got it, right?
Well, no, actually, John is the toilet, right? So your toilet penises. Well, fair enough, man. Whatever you say.
Well, some people call John's, like, John's and Floyd's, and, like, there's all sorts of euphemisms for dicks.
I know. It was just supposed to be.
What I find really funny, I don't know if you have any pictures of this, but, like, you know, all the women who are, like, sitting here, like, with their 4B movement, and they're, like, all, like, you know, like, I don't want to be in a handmaid's tale, you know, handmaiden's garb. And now what are they wearing? They have shaved heads. They're wearing these giant blue bead bracelets, and then they've got COVID masks. They've got COVID masks on their face, and it's just like, you look worse than a handmaiden, to be quite honest, because, like, at least they had to have it over their head and, like, actually looked like, you know, you could tell they were women because they actually had women hairs. These all look like, you know,
Ryan, have you not heard about 4B? Because this is a thing. This is a trend now. Women are basically. They're saying they'll have. It comes from Korea. They're saying no sex with men, no giving birth, no dating men, no marriage with men. Basically, the 4Bs, if you translate it into Korean. But what that actually manifests as is waiting for marriage.
Right. Exactly.
Which actually eliminates the issue of needing abortions anyway, because there's two answers. There's two answers I've had for this when women go, well, I'm going to do the 4B. I'm like, okay, either you are a leftist hoe and you have no self-control, which is why you care so much about abortion in the first place, because you can't keep your legs shut. So I don't believe you have the self-control to manage it. And B, if you do manage it, congratulations, you have just become a conservative.
Right.
Well done.
They end up looking like they all look like a whole bunch of deranged cancer patients. Is the crazy thing, though. Like,
with the side chains and shit. Yeah.
Folks, before we move on, I will say 4B sounds like a children's classroom. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's a pencil as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say it's a pencil weight. Yeah, that's totally.
It is, yeah. It's like a softer,
I think it's I can't remember. As the numbers go up, do they get more brittle?
B is soft, so it's darker.
Breaking news: South Koreans discover feminism. Call it
but
4B.
But it's a 4B, but it is a B, so it is a brittle one. So that's why it's more, you know, because, like, they're brittle in their heart. Like, we can get into the symbology of that, but let's not do that. But as somebody who went to art school, there's a difference between 4B pencil and 4H pencil, and, like,
there is. 4H pencil makes a lighter line because the lead is harder. The 4B pencil makes a darker line because the lead is softer.
And but that's what I'm saying is, like, these are brittle people. They make a bigger mark.
I'm loving watching Ryan spurg out and try to take control of my show, but I'll sit here and have this conversation for just as fucking long as I want.
Artists make me uncomfortable.
This is when it's good to have a tangent king in your back pocket.
Still got to finish the intro, but hey, that's fine. This is interesting shit. Ryan can spurg out as much as he wants. I don't care. I'm in the mood to make people go crazy. It's been a good week for doing that.
Hey, we got the right person in the office to, like, you know, really amplify that, you know, kind of energy. So, you know,
exactly. But actually, to the end of how crazy women are going, Mephisto X has already jumped in for £10. My goodness gracious, what the hell? Saw a video yesterday from Rotten Politics that liberal women are threatening to poison men. Men can self-warned if you are dating. Well, okay, yeah. I mean, you certainly should be a bit careful of that. That's nutty. Try to build up a reliable matrix of data, the kinds of women that are saying this. No tattoos, no nose piercings, no side head shave, no bright colored hair. If you avoid all those things and just find yourself a nice girl who likes wearing sundresses and going out on picnics, you'll probably be okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to determine who they are. Like, The deranged
like
cancer patients are very easy to spot. Just look for like a bald woman with a COVID mask and like, you know, some basically Marge Simpson's necklace, but as a bracelet made out of blue beads.
Yep. And there it is. Anyway, thank you, Mephisto X. We will be vigilant, or well, you guys can. I'm married, so you know, I don't think I'm about to get poisoned. I'm doing a good job. Don't worry about that. And of course,
I take care of
the £10 from Mephisto X there will go a long way to helping me continue to do a good job. So thank you very much for that. Anyway, I need to finish the intro. Welcome then to the chat. I can see a lot of people in here. It's got some members. We've got some that seem to have lapsed a bit. I'm sure someone can do something about that. And hello to Eris Rhoda. I think I saw TJab Steve earlier on too in here as well. Mods are aplenty. You can also chime in with a super chat if you would like to join the discussion. We'll be glad to address you. Or you can join the Griff Force. Get yourself some funny emojis like Ryan and his spears. Chuck some spears our way anytime you want. That's absolutely fine. And a ticket to the monthly members stream, which happens towards the end of the month. So there you go. Until then, I was going to do what I would normally call Rush News, but since this is a free-for-all discussion of things blending in,
or Trump news,
it's like the only piece of completely unrelated non-MAGA news. It's Dragon Age the Veilguard.
The thing that nobody wants to talk about, but kind of like
I feel like we have been there since the very beginning. Thanks largely to Ryan, who brought this to the table when it was still Rev streaming with us. And if you're out there, Rev, we still want to hear from you. Please reach out. But of course, this was something that we actually hit on long before it hit any of the bigger channels. So we've been talking about it for a while. It kind of feels like it's our duty to see it through to the end.
Well, I mean, we're just being dutiful souffle girls, right? You know, the recipe is the souffle, as Clara would say. So
yeah, why not? Let's get the Doctor Who reference in there too. But basically, the game is dying. It's on its ass. It's on its last legs. There are any number of articles I could pull up to reference this, but I've just gone with this one, which is kind of the middle of the pack this week so far. There are something along the lines of 30,000 refunds from a combined sales total. This is coming from Endymion and Smash JT, friends of the channel, who have basically come to the consideration that it sold around 500,000 units total.
It feels like we were just here with Concord 2 weeks after it came out. Like nobody really gives, like, this is probably what the last time we will talk about, because its relevance is.
We've got to at least acknowledge that it did better than Concord.
Nothing is done as worse as Concord. I think at this point in time, it has the championship for the biggest failure in gaming history.
You might say yes. Snake Demon Gaming, yes, you might say it failed hard.
Yes.
Yes. Dragon Age Hailtard, as I like to call it as well, is a collapse. It's a failure. We knew this would happen, but we didn't quite know how much. If you have a game that's come out and on Steam is done just south of 90,000 by the first weekend, and then of course that it's never going to peak beyond that. There's nothing to make the game pop more than it already has. The word of mouth is horrible. It's managed to drag the gaming awards down with it. You know, not that there was
it's exposed it for the sham that it is.
I mean, it was already pretty much gaping wide open as a sham, but it's not,
but this is just like the icing on the cake between this and including Concord in their games of the year, and Concord is the failure that it is.
Oh yeah,
get out of here.
What other games of the year? What did we say? It was. We saw before. It was like Dustborn, Concord. Not Concord was listed, right?
I think so. I'm pretty sure because I thought I distinctly recall you making a point about how like this is included. Yeah. I mean,
then I tried to find that picture again, and it mysteriously disappeared. So,
I'm trying to find it as we speak.
I'd like to make an interesting comparison, if I may, between this game's retention rate and human beings. Because if you think about it, folks, 500,000 units, okay, 500,000, and they lost 30,000 with refunds. That is what? 8% or 9%. It's not 10% because that would have been 50,000. But imagine if a human being lost 8 to 10% of their retention in 2 weeks. They'd be dead by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Unless they're
I mean, this is
hideously
what we
obese.
saw. It's
and
done
need to lose
Doctor
weight.
Who. It's done Doctor Who numbers. It's the video game equivalent of that. I mean, okay, so we know pretty much conclusively, though there is no evidence beyond our own experience as YouTubers covering this kind of thing, that the budget for this game was 200 million.
Astronomical.
At least. I mean,
yeah, because I mean, you don't even know if you have the full
iteration-
counts on the previous versions of the game, because they did what, 3 versions of it. This is the 3rd one or the
This is the
4th one. 4th one, yeah.
There was the original version, then the MMO, then there was what they went back to making
the Dreadwolf project, and then the Veilguard project. The original project before the live service model was supposed to be ready-made by 2016. It was due to be released before even Andromeda, because it was simply going to be just like Inquisition,
right?
But restyled and set in a different place. Because after the success Trespasser was, because that was a successful DLC, the original project was to just take the existing system,
right,
and then use it to build a new game.
Snap.
The problem was, the reason why they scrapped that in favor of a live service model, the success of The Witcher 3, which blew Inquisition from a not from a narrative standpoint, although the story was good, but from a graphical standpoint, it blew Inquisition away.
Let's
Exactly.
be honest. I mean, just size. You know, Inquisition was a reasonably comprehensive game,
right?
But it had a beginning, middle, and end. I like Inquisition plenty. It was the first game I played since the last Suikoden at the time that let me have a base and collect characters for it.
Well,
so I enjoyed that element of it. But the reality is, The Witcher 3 is 10 times the size of that game, with 10 times the content, and graphically it's superior as well. So
and from what I understand, because I read another article that now with what Ryan's saying and what you're mentioning, about obviously the success of The Witcher, it sounds like when the you know how they did the Mass Effect games that were reworks. Well, they were saying that they wanted to do something like that, but they can't even do that with Dragon Age because the original engine that it was made on was made prior to what was for the Mass Effect games. And so by that point in time that we're talking about, they didn't have the people available with the talent, skill, and ability to even use the engine anymore. So they had to completely scrap it and just go with one of these also ran skin job games.
Well, unfortunately with Dragon Age, with all 4 games, because I think with Veilguard, it did use the Frostbite engine, but it also used elements of the Unreal engine. So it was mainly the Frostbite engine with touched a little bit with Unreal. So technically, Dragon Age has had 4 games and 4 different game engines, one for each game. And that's usually a recipe for disaster. So 3 out of 4 ain't bad based on that.
It's a Frankenstein. It's a Frankenstein game. That's what it is. It's built. It started off as something else, became something else, became something else, and finally became this. In many ways, it's the tranny of the.
Right. I was going to say it does. It had its own identity crisis because it couldn't just even be what it
game
was.
franchise trans. God.
Well, listen, man. Look, I mean, one day it could be worse. I mean, imagine if you had like a kid who grew up to be like 20 and then decided that they were going to lop bits off themselves and make you call them a different name. That's worse, and that happens to people. So
But
it happened to Elon Musk.
It's a very apt kind of way of thinking about it, though, because quite literally, like, this game went through an identity crisis where it wasn't going to be able to retain its actual essence, and so they were like, all right, well, let's make an Anthem clone, and then Anthem completely tanked, and so they couldn't do that. So like that sends them back one more time to like try to figure things out, and then they end up having problems with that, and then they have problems with the next one too, and so like they end up, if you don't have an actual identity to based on your own personality traits and your own character and your own actual principles and values, then you're going to end up becoming some kind of virtue signaling empty nothing.
I certainly feel like if they it's not completely broken. As bad as this is, you could retcon.
It's a good
go back to, Ferelden, have a Grey Warden trilogy, as was pointed out in the chat. You could do that still. Maybe you just have to sort of make, because it's all been the future since then, right?
Right.
So you could technically go in a completely different direction, but it depends really, because some people would see that as basically going back and making the Obi-Wan Kenobi series when we all know it leads to the sequel trilogy.
Right.
But I guess it would be better. But I mean, they'd have to produce an up-to-date version of Dragon Age Origins.
Right. Well, it's
probably
kind of
necessitate a remake.
Origins wasn't even up to date when it was released.
No, it was 6 years out of date then. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Because development for the game started in 2002, and it was fully made and released around 2008, 2009. A lot of people forget that Dragon Age Origins' success and Dragon Age's success came from the fact that it was a great story with a great cast of characters, with a compelling villain. And the worst parts about that game is the visuals and the combat, which is not to everyone's taste, even back then. And then they switched it with 2 because they didn't have enough time to make a game. And then with Inquisition, they tried to make the best bits of Origins and 2 together. But instead of making it small like Dragon Age 2 was, they just made it absolutely massive, because the biggest complaint they had with 2 is that it was too small a game.
Right. Well, wasn't the 2 supposed to be a DLC that got spun off into a title? And so it got a little bit bigger, but not as big as it should have been.
It wasn't supposed to be made, John. It took 10 months to make, because EA told BioWare quite clearly, make a sequel to Origins, when no sequel was planned.
Which is kind of hilarious, because that's what happened when they had the KOTOR license, and they went and they turned around and made KOTOR 2 in a quick turnaround, and it came out imperfect, but people still appreciate it because it was at least based on something that was fundamentally sound.
Whereas this is just bad faith as it gets, and ultimately, as it's only sold 500,000 units combined across all platforms, that means that from a budget that they've reported, I believe, or is the official statement is $100 million, but that's bullshit. There's no way in hell it costs that little.
That's the official
numbers, at least double that. Some people think triple or quadruple that. The total that they would have made if they had sold 500,000 units clean would be $35 million. But then there's 30,000 returns at least, and that's just what we know have been returned via the digital shop fronts.
Yeah,
so that costs you automatically another $2.1 million off that, reducing that to $32.9 million. Then you've got the fact that the trade-in price for the game, as reported again, is already sinking down exceptionally low. I remember when I worked at Blockbuster, you used to get, if it's 2 or 3 days, say, after a game has come out, and this is when brand new games were £40, £50. Then you would get, let's say you bought the game new for 40 quid, right? And you finished it and you trade it in later that same week, you're getting 35 quid back for it, because because they can still make a lot of money off selling it again. And then that goes down and down and down and down until, 5 years later, you get less than a tenner for it, right? But depending on how popular it remains and how many copies there are, of course. But as was pointed out a little while ago, it's on sale, I guess. I don't know if that's new or pre-owned. 25 quid.
Pre-owned, The thing I've found out on the second-hand market, thank goodness it still exists, is you can tell when a game is a great game when it holds its value. 2 great examples of this are Hogwarts Legacy on the Xbox One and the PS4, which their value is a lot higher than the next-gen versions. And the greatest example would be Elden Ring, because that game is a fantastic game, very challenging game as well. And even that, all these years later, has held its own on the second-hand market, at least last time I I checked. I mean, holding your value 70-80% of the original released price. That
Grand
takes
Theft Auto
some
5.
effort.
Yeah. I mean, we are looking at this point at a situation where if you trade in the game, it's worth up to $22. So yeah, in the UK, you're probably getting £17 maybe for it. Then they're selling it for 25 quid. And that is, and I'd be surprised actually, it might be as low as 12 or 15 pounds for a trade-in price for it, depending on what the shops are like now. I haven't been there I haven't bought a video game in the UK from a shop for 7 years. So I have no idea like there now. Blockbuster obviously doesn't exist anymore, but I'm sure Game and Game Station still do.
No.
Yeah. No.
Game Station. Game Station. Yeah, Game Station has been wiped out. One of the main ones now, for better or for worse, is CEX, but put that in a word and it said sex shop. It's like, I'm going to the... Yes, oh dear. What a
right, but to Ryan's
if
point,
not,
though,
then it's Kex, which means underwear. So that's just as bad.
Right, but to Ryan's point, though, like a good game, say, Grand Theft Auto 5, as much of a chore builder as it may be, we're over 10 years old, and it still sells for full prices. It in some instances actually sells for more nowadays than it was 10 years ago when it first came out, because just the inflationary cost.
Well, from a digital standpoint, I'm inclined to agree with you. From a physical standpoint, especially secondhand, I mean, you can go into a store in this day and age and buy GTA 5 across 3 generations.
Yeah, it's ubiquitous in that regard, but the digital version of it still costs just as much. But even the conservative estimates on this say $250 million is what I was using as my baseline to do my math when it first came out, right? And so you would have to sell between $3.5 million to $4 million at that level to not even break even. So you have to sell. So they were going to have to sell, ostensibly their best selling game to actually get to a profitability point, because, I guess the most profitable one was 12 million sales. So they were going to have to, to get past that, they were going to have to make at least 8 to 9 million in sales just to come up completely dead zero of paying back their marketing costs and all the other associated costs that we're never going to know about for all the misfires on development. And so they would have had to sell effectively 16 million copies of the game to actually have it eke out something that would be able to be seen as a profit. And that, with the identity crisis they put this whole thing through, which oddly enough does mimic what the game story is about in a weird way, it wasn't allowed to even be Dragon Age, and so you end up getting this pale imitation that is a, I guess, capable God of War clone, but that's not Dragon Age,
No.
And
from what I've heard, it's not capable. If you consider God of War to be good at what it does and God of War Ragnarok to be mechanically better, then this is below serviceable. It's boring. It doesn't have any content. And people are trading them in en masse, which is why James Opp has come in for $5. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. And says, let them burn, 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 LOL. And thank you. I'll give it up. And I had to double check.
Feeling he's trying to say something, but I don't know if I can quite discern it from the coded language.
Yeah, I think he might be implying that they're not much value to anyone, and more than likely will end up in a landfill alongside The Last of Us 2 and E.T. for the Atari 2600.
Well, shit, if you actually did burn it, it would give it more value than it has currently, because at least then you could probably stay kind of warm. But
it's almost like a Christmas song, it's like let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. No, we don't need that. We can just use our copies of Dragon Age Veilguard to keep that fire burning.
But even if you burn it, you still, because it is made out of what it's made out of, there still is the increased possibility of cancer from breathing in the petrol vapors and whatnot for the plastics.
If you're someone who's unfortunate enough to end up with a copy of Dragon Age Veilguard in your stocking for Christmas, we will be opening the support group on the 26th. So there's that. But there you go. So it's a complete disaster.
Have you been
Dragon
affected
Age
by
is
Drag
dead.
Queen Age?
I guess the last thing I really want to say is at this point, I'm sure we'll end up with more news about this as it goes on, but it's getting to the kind of end of the relevance of the story now.
Yeah.
It's fizzled out more or less the way we thought it would. It would explode onto the scene, piss everybody off, be a hot topic for about a week, and then, you know, just like Last of Us 2, we'll be talking about how badly it's done for a couple more weeks here and there, and then no one will ever talk about it or think about it ever again.
Right.
So do you think BioWare will survive?
As long as EA supports it, it will survive.
Because Mass Effect 5 is supposed to be coming, and they're putting a lot of those devs on it.
Right.
Yep.
I think that they're kind of bound to it for the moment, but if they mess up with this new Mass Effect, which I don't hold any high regard for,
using the Unreal
it
Engine for it, though, I think speaks wonders, because this project used elements of the Unreal Engine alongside the Frostbite engine, and I think of all the companies that are in desperate need of a baseline to support their projects, then the Unreal Engine for BioWare is the way to go. I mean, we talked about this.
It's a peculiar choice to use Frostbite, actually, because it's mostly an FPS engine. It's been around since 2 generations ago, I think.
I remember when they were first developing Inquisition. I mean, it was a top-down command. Everyone uses the Frostbite engine, whether it was FIFA, whether it was Dragon Age, whether it was Battlefield. There was a time that the Frostbite engine was compulsory, and it was used to make Andromeda, it was used to make Inquisition, it was used to make Anthem, and most of it was used to make Veilguard. The reason they're changing course now is the fact that it's like squaring a circle, for folks. It's not going to work. Frostbite engine was never designed for these kinds of games. The Unreal Engine is the perfect engine for these kinds of games,
right?
Especially if it's done right.
Right. Well, given who EA is and the way that they go about making games, quite honestly, as much as I sit here and say if you don't have the capabilities of supporting your own engine, then that really says quite a lot. But when you look at EA's corporate structure and the way that because that was why they used to have everything connected to the Frostbite engine, is EA is very top-down driven. They want uniformity across as many things they possibly can, because they want to be able to slot people here, slot people there. They have a whole bunch of subsidiaries, so they want to be able to have control over their dominion. But when they lost those capable people because of Gamergate 1 and the Me Too and all that kind of insanity that drove a lot of men out of the gaming industry, now they're left with, being the kind of structure they are, they kind of have to lean on something like EA, or not EA, but Unreal for their future capabilities. Because they tried with Anthem, they were going to make everything an Anthem clone, but Anthem, of course, had its epic failure, so they can't do that now. They can't really invest in making a new engine because they don't have talented, skilled people there that actually have the ability to do that. So they have to deal with what they can deal with, which is going to be these people who come out of art school with limited skills because they were all told how to kiss ass and kind of suck each other off to get ahead, and be more concerned about aspects of marketing than storytelling, or knowing how to be fundamentally sound in making games. So they have to do it this way, because they're so crippled by their size. And so they're not actually going to be able to be a nimble kind of capable thing that can rebuild itself, because they don't have the workforce for that. So yeah,
are Bethesda fans praying that Bethesda used the Unreal Engine? Because considering how old the Creation Engine is, maybe it needs a bit of that Unreal magic.
Right.
There you go.
Especially
all
given
right,
the gaming culture
we will move on, but first let's also acknowledge Mage's Guild for 5, and thank you very much. Between Dragon Age and Concord, there will be enough unsold copies to make an artificial island. What a fun. DEI is death by
We can call this one Puerto Rico, and then this really will be an island made of trash.
Hey, at least then we can actually ship them all off there, and we can build Leftopia, because apparently they're not working anywhere else.
Right.
Guild has clearly never heard of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is 3 times the size of France, which is a gigantic plastic pile in the Pacific Ocean, 70% of
Absolutely.
it underwater. So if we ever get a
I think it's
plastic
bigger than
lord-
Texas.
Yeah. If we get a plastic lord show, the Pacific monster, Loch Ness,
Maybe.
made of
They
plastic.
certainly would benefit from having their own island, though, because they certainly aren't welcome anywhere else, and they're beginning to realize it, as we can tell from this Guardian article. And there is how you do a segue. It says, from Trump's victory, a simple, inescapable message. Many people despise the left. Now, before anyone gets on my case, this is from the Guardian, which I don't know how big that is across the pond, but in the United Kingdom, widely known as left-wing trash.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that this guy, John Harris, who kind of looks like he has to introduce himself to his neighbors, is saying the quiet part out loud. Many people despise the left. Something is happening, guys.
Even the left does.
The games industry is collapsing. The movie industry it's past collapsing at this point, barely even functions. Trump is president again. There's really no take apart from we hate the left to have.
Right.
Now, obviously, this is quite a long article. Both Ryan and I already saw Daignault talking about it. But it is interesting because if you want to know, what the left are talking about, usually, of course, you go to their websites and you'll find that they're blaming white people, but they've already been through white men, white women, black men, Hispanic men. They haven't done black women yet.
No.
They don't want to, because that's their sacred cow, of course. So they can't. That would be blaming trannies. So they've actually had to blame themselves before.
Yeah, this article screams damage control, folks.
Oh, most definitely.
It is a self-expose, for lack of a better term, but it is just damage control, all of it.
Well,
right from the very first line, they blame a successful propaganda campaign when there is no propaganda. I know Trump says a lot of silly things sometimes, easy to take out of context. I feel that because I do that too. We're going to do a lot about a lot. The wettest hurricane in the history of water, that sort of thing.
I mean, he tries in this article to actually get to the point. He points out here the many reasons that they could have to explain the Trump comeback, like inflation, incumbency, a flimsy Democratic campaign, white Americans, seemingly eternal issues with race. Oh, you were so close.
Right. Well, see, that's the thing. I don't think that they'll actually get to the heart of the matter.
The New York Times essayist recently called a regressive idea of masculinity in which power over women is birthright.
Yeah, I don't think they can get to the heart of this though, because they're like, it's kind of like the scene in the "Are We the Baddies?" and they certainly are, and they don't.
Yeah, but
they're not.
Unlike that scene, they're not going to realize.
No, they're not going to they're not going to question that. But like, it's because they're so driven by corporatist globalism or globalist corporatism, one or the other. Like you figure it out. It's a mix of the two.
The truth.
They don't want to come to that they can't come to the conclusion that's ultimately right in front of them this whole time. So they're going to keep looking around it, looking over it, looking under it.
Oh yeah,
things right in front of them.
It's right in front of your face, and you're looking around it. You're looking at the sides of it. It's like, meet it in the fucking gaze and face the reality that you have alienated yourselves from common sense.
Well, the truth can't be the narrative.
You can say white men think that power over women is a birthright, but that again is that is a complete conflation of what the actual issue is. The issue is you've spent 8 to 10 years convincing the world that white men are evil, for wanting to get married and have children and go on dates with girls and not be called a rapist for it.
Well, it's a straw man argument to create a false narrative. It reinforces the argument that I've made in regards to the opposition, is that the truth doesn't work with them. They operate on a narrative. If you tell the opposition the truth, the narrative will protect them. That's why it takes a narrative
this part in particular
to destroy a narrative. Well,
this masculinity and the idea of masculinity in which power over women is a birthright. Is power over women a birthright?
Well, from their standpoint, historically speaking, it is, because when you see a socialist interpretation of the world and of history, it is oppressive by nature of class, by nature of race, by nature of.
But then
of
that was. But then that is formulated in their warped fucking perception by the very concept that this is a man-made construct, that at some point thousands of years ago a bunch of primitives got together and decided to oppress women forever and ever and ever, and this happened to happen simultaneously across all cultures, countries, creeds and races at the same fucking time. What's more likely? Nature decided that men will be stronger and build things, and women will be weaker and better at giving care and love and support. And that is just the way it is. We can't do anything about it any more than those idiots who convince themselves that they can change genders can actually change genders.
Right.
And that is the ultimate difference between the left and the right.
Well,
The left believe that humanity is cultural, and the right believe humanity is natural. And we see this. We see this throughout.
But the thing is,
history.
culture is natural.
Right. But it's the difference between
it's
the difference between ascendance though and transcendence, because ascendance actually believes in a natural order of things that go beyond your capacity to, ever fully control or even, rationally understand entirely. There is some cosmic kind of like, it's bigger than me, so I can never get to it. But then you got like, this authoritarian kind of mindset that thinks, well, if I dictate every aspect of reality, I can change the very nature of reality through high-end demonic forms of technology that I don't even know, that I don't even understand, but I'm going to do it anyways because I can. And that's transhumanism in a nutshell.
Guys team up. When one guy's good at one thing, he is assigned to that. Then another guy happens to be excellent at, technology, so he's assigned to that. And overall, what we end up building is called civilization. And ever has it been. And it happens naturally. And if you were to wipe the minds of every living person on this planet, we would go back to that paradigm faster than if you didn't.
And that's the feminist conceit of having it all, is that this idea that there isn't differences between men and women, that, like the power of the masculine, the power of the feminine, it's, like this is universal.
Women have forever had this wrong, and it's there are so many simple, almost jokey lines you could say about it. Women will be like, "Oh, well, men, you want to have everything, you've got everything. Women, why can't I have everything? Why do I need so much? But you men, what do you need? You don't need anything." And the man turns around and says, "We need women."
You? Yeah, I need you. Can you be actually what you need to be and be responsible for that
What
part?
do we do anything for, guys? What would we do if there were no women? We'd have killed each other. All of us would kill each other.
We'd all be millionaires and we'd be living the highlight.
Yeah, but what would be the point? There would be no civilization.
And that's the existential question.
We never had currency. We would never have traded anything. We'd have just killed each other.
Will makes a fantastic point there in regards to the nature of manhood and the nature of womanhood. But I look at this from the perspective of all the things that have transpired have gotten us to where we are today. And to me, the modern world, especially the Western world, is anti-human. It is destructive of the human mind, the human body, and the human soul, which is why the existing system doesn't work, which is why alternatives are rising up, no matter their ideology, against it, both within the West and outside the West. I mean, you look at examples like Russia, like China, like India. As much as I like criticizing India for the lols, they have their own way of doing things. There are alternatives springing up because the existing system, especially in the United States, United Kingdom, and the Western world, are failing. We're having less children. We're having less peace. We're having less prosperity, which is why these alternatives and solutions are popping up.
As cultural Marxism. The result is a movement to demasculinize man. So basically, they've been having a go at guys now for so long. I mean, look, here's a personal anecdote that's actually a little embarrassing. When I first got to the Philippines, I was still semi part of that system that had raised me to be a 20-year-old who asked women everything that they might
Right.
want to do or help me to decide. When I got here to the Philippines and I got serious with the woman who's now my wife, she told me quite sternly on a few occasions to stop fucking asking her and make a damn decision. You're a man, aren't you? And, you know, I kind of went away with that pissed off and a bit kind of like, you don't understand. I'm more advanced than you. I'm from a culture where we ask women what they... And then I sort of think, shut up, dickhead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go and take her to a restaurant you think is nice. You know what the result is? This.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the Philippines is another fantastic example of this.
It's like the ego versus the id.
You've got, of course, the native population there. Then you've got the Spanish mindset that was there. Then you had the American mindset that was there. It's a sort of best of both worlds. And one thing I like about the old colonies, whether they're in the Second World or
now you owe me a super chat.
whether it's in the Second World or the Third World, is that they show us a mirror of what our civilizations used to be like. Why?
Right.
Because their laws today are inspired by the laws our recent and distant ancestors had.
But they show us a mirror that is like almost like the shimmer on a lake, something that's natural and been there since the start. And we're like a fun house mirror that's contorted and like, you know, gives you like a completely, you know, warped sense of reality.
To the point now where, and I mean, this has been obvious forever, but we've been so embroiled in it for so long that the very simple things and the opinions that we went into it with have almost been completely forgotten. And these are very simple things like, we haven't had a real war for 2 or 3 generations now, so we haven't really had any reason for young men to have to struggle, become competent and exceed, while the culture is telling them that they are dinosaurs. And the idea of just that statement up there about masculinity being dominion over women being a birthright, it's not. It's the natural order of things. If you don't give us a purpose, it's not about power over women. Take that framing away completely. It's about this innate desire that every male has.
Right.
That especially when you reach a certain age, I don't know, about late 20s and early 30s, something just goes beep, beep in your head and it starts going, accumulate resources, accumulate wealth. Why? I don't know, because I might need it and I might fall in love and then someone will need me to have these things.
Yeah.
Bare minimum.
Your personality, your character, you may think is like, you know, like, wow, women are really drawn to that. But no, they're actually drawn to like more foundational things for the long term.
I'm telling you,
your
man,
personality, your character.
You can see a 75-year-old man walking down the street with a 19-year-old girl here, and you will look at it, and as I did when I first got here, and think, "Well, what the fuck?" And then one of these days, you'll befriend a couple not so different from that, living in this place, this part of the world. You'll get talking to them, and the woman will turn around, and you will observe very quickly that she is deeply in love with that man. You know why? Because she and her entire family do not have to worry ever again because she met him.
And that's what it means to be a lord, basically. Quite honestly, you know,
that is different. That is different civilizations.
It's weird
colliding. Exactly,
but it is a thing.
It's essentially different ways to the same destination. 2 things, though. First of all, John, you made an excellent point in regards to the mirror and to look at this particular article. This guy is trying to look into a mirror. And
this is the funhouse mirror.
There. This is a vampiric mirror. This guy is a vampire.
There's no reflection in it. There's just a real.
Right. Well, I mean, that's because he's a vampire. So no matter what he looks in, but the reflection that he's putting up is the funhouse mirror because it is this weird distortion of reality that doesn't want to take things into account, like what Will is talking about. You know, and when it comes to relationships, like, you know, like, and what I was saying, women don't care. Like your personality, your character is a nice garnish, but they want the steak, and the steak is, you know, actual foundational acquisitions. Like, just listen to these women that are on like the whatever podcast. I want a man who has a fucking phone digit, you know, a phone number for a yearly income, and they'll be
I'm
like
a millionaire. Oh, look, all these women are suddenly here.
Right. And so that's the thing is like, you know, like you can be anybody, but you have to meet like, you know, some very certain criteria for women to actually give you the time of day legitimately. Like you can be a fuckboy, but if you're a fuckboy, that's not like women don't marry fuckboys. And if they do, they end up having stories like me.
Women don't marry fuckboys and men don't marry whores. It's very simple.
There was another thing I wanted to add it. I mean, it was something that
but a fuckboy can become a man. That's one way. That
right. But a whore doesn't really become a, you know, a whore can never really become a lady.
A whore can't really go back. Yeah.
No, but a fuckboy can become a man.
Well, Will made a good point about that there hasn't been a major war in the West for a good few generations, and that was usually a way of, you know, settling disputes between civilization. We can't do that anymore without risking.
The attack comes from within.
Cass is telling me that that's bullshit, that I'm giving double standards, but no, like
no. I mean, it is a double standard. It is. It's not fair because a guy can fuck around, but if he's still trying to fuck around when he's 50, he's going to be very, very miserable. I've met guys in the nightclubs in the Philippines here when I was first here who are 50, 60 years old and they think they're fucking pickup artists. And they talk to me because I was broke when I first got here and I befriended all these dickheads. And so to do and hang out in bars, and they'd say to me like, "Hey, stick with us, man. We'll make sure you get laid." And then I'm like observing these guys. And their strategy, their great strategy is to wait till 5 a.m.
Right, and so like this. Let me restate.
You're not fucking cool. Get a wife, you know.
let me restate what I was saying, so it's a little bit more clear to Cass though, and what I meant though. Like, you can't stay a fuckboy. If you stay a fuckboy, then you're going to be what Will was just talking about. You're going to be stuck in a. You're going to be staying
whatever the male version of a spinster is.
But the point that we're getting at about like, you know, you can't unwhore a whore, but you can at least become a man from being a fuckboy, is there's experience to be gained. And as long as you end up kind of like doing this thing where you actually get into that man mindset of acquisition, protection, and all that kind of stuff, you can grow out of that. However, the inverse of that is not quite as possible. Like, could a woman become, you know, more like, you know,
a woman can completely change her attitudes, but you'll find, and there's just a way that the psychological makeup of men and women differs, that having a lot of sex will boost a guy's feelings about himself pretty much right down to the bone. Until you hit that level where you've got nothing else and then you're pathetic, but it takes a lot longer. Whereas women, they are more emotionally connected to sex as a concept in general, and it is more just culturally worldwide considered more of an intimate thing for women than for men necessarily. So that's why you end up with girls who keep calling you after you've had like one night with them and things like that. It does happen. It's unfortunate and it makes you feel like a piece of shit sometimes. But the reason that women can't go back from being a hoe to being a lady is because it gets in their head. They get that thousand cock stare. Like, they've lost the ability to connect intimately with sex, and that makes them lose that vulnerability, that femininity that is attractive to men in the first place.
And you can still have the sexiness, which is why this is the point where feminism fails, is because they rely on using sex as a weapon rather than like, you know, something that is foundational to an actual intimate based relationship. Because intimacy is not just the sex. Intimacy is the everything that we're talking about, like Will has. You know, a family, all that, like that. Those are the deepest levels of intimacy. Because you know, are the things that go beyond that. And so when women reduce it down to having everything means that I have sex powers and things like that, they completely undo the humanity of our society. Right, and
she's a fantastic archetype for the opposition.
And the point that I'm getting at is, if you remove humanity from society, can you still have one? Physically, sure, but do you actually? Is there anything essentially there that's worthwhile?
Is society. You can't. If there's no sociability, then you don't have a society. You just have
you just turn into sociopaths. And so you can be, and so like you'll be a world full of sociopaths that just kind of like interact, and everything becomes transactional. You can't have that. I mean, you can, but that's not a world you want to live in. That's where everything's in shades of beiges and grays, and we want to live in a colorful world that actually, you know, enhances the powerful dynamics of both men and women to complement each other, not to try to reduce them down to their least common denominators. Because then what you have is guys pursuing sex robots and women pursuing, you know, like this idea of having it all, and both are flawed. The balance isn't actually like, you know, learning to appreciate. Right.
Whatever a feminist might think about patriarchy, a man yes, a man can do a lot better on his own than a woman can, physically and in general, but that doesn't mean that the guy's fulfilled.
No.
You won't actually get that happiness until you have, wealth. And that's not just because superficially I want to go and make it rain. No, you need to have assets, you need to have wealth, you need to have a feeling in the back of your mind that the people you love are safe, and if anything ever happens, you will be able to do something about it.
And honestly, part of the reason people don't like hearing my stories because I talk about like I was a fuckboy who married a hoe.
So was I, man.
So neither of us were really qualified to do what we needed to do. But as I'm trying to work through actually becoming the man in the relationship and like all this kind of stuff, she's completely resistant to it because she had gone down that pathway of sex being a weapon. And and by that point in time, it's like I don't even want to know this person that I'm married to, and like that's kind of weird.
This is like women tend to hate each other, whereas men tend to hate each other. But what's that thing? There's like a meme version of it. I've seen it's like a bunch of guys hanging out in a bar. They walk into the bar. They've just finished their work. They agree to meet at the pub 5-6 o'clock. Walk in. Best mate comes in. All right, you cunt, how you doing? And he goes, yeah, I'm all right. I shagged your mum last night. He goes, yeah, she said you were shit. You want a pint? Right. And then by the end of the night, if it goes that way and you're still out 3 a.m., you're wasted or whatever, you're cuddling your mates, you're kissing them on the cheeks, you're going, you're my best friend, you're my brother, I love you, and all that stuff, right? Women, total opposite. You get a group of women meeting up to go out one evening. They come out, they're like, oh, hi, sweetie. Mwah, love you so much, darling. Mwah, love you. Oh, you look fabulous. By the end of the night, scratching each other's eyes out in the fucking gutter.
Right.
And we've all seen it. It was part of Binge Britain in the early 2000s. It was always the women having the fights.
I think I'm still miscommunicating with Cass, and since which I'm saying she's like that's the fundamental flaw.
We need to move on. We
fundamental flaw. Right. No, I will talk to you about this. We can talk about this on the Discord at some point in time. We can do a private chat between two of us.
Yeah, you can respond.
But I know. But the point that I'm getting at though is in the difference between kind of what you're saying is I don't think there's a foundational problem with women per se. I think that a lot of this stuff is kind of the top-down structure that we're talking about that infiltrates their mind and kind of puts stars in their eyes and turns them into locusts rather than gardeners, right? And so rather than tending to their field, they just try to take from the field. And you can take from the field. But you can take from the field, but you can only take from a field for so long. If you tend to a field, then it grows generation upon generation. You have perennials there. You have things that are actually like, seasonal. And so like, that's what we're talking about, like this idea.
But I mean, the argument of whether it's culture or nature, there is an argument that it's culture now, but even animals behave in these certain ways as well. Because, for example, any species of animal, doesn't matter whichever one comes to your mind, whether it's lions or apes or humans even.
But basically, women are very powerful. They are very fundamental to the whole process.
Yeah, men are designed to go away and find materials, food, assets, shelter, safety, that kind of stuff, fight, kill, battle, whatever, and provide, right? And then, of course, as society has built up, we've had other ways that don't involve as much danger and death to do that. But at the end of the day, women would men would be able to act alone or in groups, work together to accomplish a common goal. Always very good. Women, on the other hand, left with the kids. Not very nice for them, I imagine. But what are you going to do when you need to go to sleep and the men are all away on a hunt? You have to rely on the other women to look after your kid with their kid, and then you'll return that favor, which is communism, basically, or at least the breeding ground for it. Every woman needs to make sure that all the other women at least imagine that she's their friend, so that they, whereas guys, we can be like, oh, I don't really like him, but I'll hang out with him. There's a level of respect that we can operate under that goes beyond our likability to some degree.
Both work in their respective field. That's why we have individualism, and that's why we have collectivism. It's just
it's also why striking the balance. Man and a woman come together, they've got all bases covered. It's the best possible partnership. of the ones that apparently exist.
Which is why the Latin nations have feminine and masculine words, because they know that there is a certain kind of duality of existence. You like when I'm one thing, I can't be the other.
Non-binary people. The Spanish language exists.
Yeah, if I'm looking left, I can't look right at the same time. And so like that's why you have that opposite.
The French and the Germans don't like it either, because the Germans don't have the capacity for those kind of personal pronouns in their language, and the French language, like the Spanish, has masculine and feminine words, which is about where I checked out of GCSE French, actually. We do need to move on, though. The battle of the sexes will not be solved by
to boil
us
it down really.
tonight.
Oh yeah, I got one little quick thing to say. Like so they basically want us. No. I'm just saying if they allowed us to like see each other face to face, I could see you for your issues, you could see me for mine, but you could also see what's behind me, and I can see what's behind you. We cover each other's ground. They instead want us back to, they want us back to back to where like there's this wedge being drove between us that neither of us can see, because we're all just stuck looking the wrong direction rather than looking out for each other or
it's
past each other.
Social tension,
right?
That has alleviated. I've heard a few people saying this, and I've said it myself. This last week, it just feels like breathing is a little bit easier.
Indeed,
just a little bit easier. So there you go. And why has that happened? Well, of course we know why. It's because we've got the T-Man back in the White House, or soon anyway. But things are moving on, and of course we need to cover one last little bit of ridiculous spurging out that's happened as a result of this. Do you guys know the Angry Video Game Nerd very well?
I used to watch him habitually, and now not so much, but him getting pinned for this is laughable.
This is the most insane thing. This is more insane than any of those idiots that I put in the intro to this stream. Go on.
It is insane considering the legacy of this man. I dare say, you could dare say, and I will dare say, that he was one of the OG content creators from a pop culture perspective.
He kind of did YouTube before YouTube existed.
Yeah, he was one of those people who worked within the 10-minute time frame and all that kind of stuff. Like,
he was making videos before he was uploading them to YouTube, he was uploading them to Screw Attack. He was working with Stephen Craig.
I mean, he went to film school, and this was his outlet to kind of like do his craft and everything like that. So
and I mean, if you actually watch the rest of his stuff, he's a huge cinephile, especially of the Universal monster movies and things like that.
Yep.
But he's getting blamed for Trump being president.
They really are deranged to try to like talk about pulling a needle out of the haystack, and when it's actually just another like piece of hay.
So it started off with this, I think. It's hard to tell where it began, but so I think it was in response to something else originally. Somebody was saying that the Angry Video Game Nerd started this when he refused to review Ghostbusters 2016. Most people seem to have forgotten that
Ghostbusters is one of the worst movies ever.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but he didn't even watch it, right?
Oh, so I know. Neither have I.
This person here called Painus Hurts, okay, says, let's not pretend the Angry Video Game Nerd's hateful rhetoric and crude language wasn't responsible for corrupting a generation of young people. First of all, nobody under my age knows who the Angry Video Game Nerd is, apart from people who study this kind of stuff, maybe. Right. But I guarantee, Ryan, how much AVGN have you actually watched?
Very,
as a 25-year-old.
Yeah, very little, and my specialty is in knowing content creation.
I've seen absolutely all of it, even the most recent one.
Yep, and that's where I am with Will, because we're olds compared to Ryan.
The legacy of the man.
I still watch it, even though it's not that great anymore.
Right.
Exactly, because the legacy, it's the legacy of what the man has done. When you hear the term Angry Video Game Nerd, you understand the legacy of the man unless you were watching it in his heyday. I mean, I don't know where he is now, but I dare say that if he's
still making content, he's still releasing AVGN videos.
Well, that's
he does AVGN, and then he also does. I think Cinemassacre is his.
That's his website. Cinemassacre is his website, production company, which I don't know, it produces AVGN videos basically. But then the channel Cinemassacre was actually picked up by a MCN, which is where it started to get fucked because you couldn't play the original theme song anymore. They didn't, and all that stuff. So that's where it started. Then this psycho decided to say on the reel, whatever that means. This person, who is a tranny, by the way, said probably didn't help our current chud culture around movies. Oh, yeah, chuds, guys. Yeah, we're all chuds. Did you know that
racial
chewing gum in the UK? That's what that means.
It's also a racial slur against Slavic people.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So there's actually been a community note put on this because it got so viral. So basically, in the video, in this particular video, he didn't say that he wouldn't review it because it was women. He said it was too late. It didn't look very good from the trailer. He is a big fan of Ghostbusters, but he had no interest in watching this or reviewing it.
Because he's a big fan of Ghostbusters. He's a
big fan of Ghostbusters. He didn't want to take the risk. And that was all he said. And if you actually know anything about him, he's nothing like the AVGN. He's actually quite a shy, soft-spoken dude. It's really ironic that he created that character. They're blaming him for As from Heel versus Babyface, saying that now we have guys who are unironically like the angry video game nerd.
It's insane considering, and I'm getting my foot in the door before everyone else gets their perspective. Heel versus Babyface was a fully fledged WoW streamer.
He was a WoW tuber, yeah.
Yeah, while
for 8 years.
Yeah, while the angry video game nerd was at his peak at the beginning of content creation in the mid 2000s, and then As debuted in the early 2010s.
Let's put it this way: As is older than the AVGN.
Yeah,
James Rolfe is like 44. As is said, where it's been told, people have said that he's like 50 plus. So
yeah, he's in his early. One of the reasons why he went on a weight loss program was to help extend his lifespan. But to make this kind of narrative, because there's nothing truthful about it, to make this kind of narrative without understanding the creator journeys or legacies of both these content creators, talk about room temperature IQ.
Well, this comes from people that only look at it as content and don't actually look at the context of the creator and like that lore that we all build, it's kind of like the whole thing about like to make another Doctor Who reference, like whenever you get a new face of Who, you get new opportunities and new experiences, but that doesn't undo the things that led up to that, because like the new face of the Doctor will constantly reflect back to past versions of himself, because they're simultaneously Swiss cheesing reality, and like that's why you can have those weird episodes where you encounter yourself, and kind of get those weird kind of dynamics. Going after Az, saying that he's, Az is a byproduct of angry video game nerd, where they both have, like AVGN is like well over 10 years old. Yeah, they started right. He's older than James Rolfe, but when you look at in terms of how long they've both been here, they're actually kind of in the same halo of the time that they started.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're on the internet at the same period of time. The other thing they don't seem to realize is that a lot of northern guys, especially Yorkshiremen, are very mouthy like this. They like their rant and rave. They do. No problem with that. They're like that too. In fact, British people in general are more prone to fits of shouting than Americans are probably used to.
Which is why I get along with you guys so well,
Yeah.
Considering the times we grew up in, I mean, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, you have a lot to be fucking angry about.
I mean, we actually have the capacity to call our friends cunts and laugh it off and just know that we're just calling each other cunts because we're calling each other cunts.
Exactly.
Not
and don't get me wrong, I've heard all sides of the whole, pronouns rant thing. I've heard people saying, it was really great that he did that. It was bound to happen eventually, a big viral moment about something like that. And I've heard other people say, oh, that's just embarrassing for people on our side of the culture war because it makes us all look like we can't control our emotions. All right, whatever. I mean, I didn't have any strong feelings one way or the other. I guess I'd lean more to the, yes, stick it to him, man, kind of side of it. But it's not like I rallied behind that flag and said this is the moment, or anything like that.
This article is just more kind of
AVGN into it. So weird.
Well, again, this is like the last article, though. Like, this is just another person who's avoiding any self-introspection. So they're sitting here looking for, like, what's immediately around me that I can point to right now and conveniently, virtue signal about.
It's bizarre that they would do
it. Is.
It's not even. It hasn't even been relevant for like 10 years.
But we're on the anniversary of ads doing the whole pronoun rant, right? And then, like clockwork every year. I understand, but. Again, just go for me. Like, just give me a second to kind of cook a little bit. So, like, because every year they seem to try to get people to buy back into the idea that 2016 Ghostbusters wasn't a failure. They keep trying to ship this thing over and over again, and now they're right, and now they're looking for what was in the culture last year, because these are thoughts that are coming from NPCs. They don't have internal discernment, so they just sit here and like they try to immediately they follow trends. Right, they follow trends. They follow stuff that's pre-existing and to some degree established, because they don't want to actually do the hard work.
Taught to do, because that's the media now.
Right. And so that's why you see this completely deranged article that's missing the point entirely from where it's saying, oh, this happened because of this, and this is a byproduct of that. And like it's
dances around it.
Complete projection that completely misses the point that it's like, oh no, I'm actually kind of like, deranged, and I need to actually work my shit out and get back in touch with reality and humble myself. And maybe people might actually forgive me, but there's no arrogance and ignorance are, stuck together in time. It's almost like the master and the doctor, like one of them's a little bit more arrogant, one of them's a little bit more ignorant. Who am I talking about? Depends on the day, depends on the doctor, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
Right. And so that's the thing, is like this is just more just pulling at straws that trying to come up with a needle, and it's just handfuls of straws and them saying, oh, I think I can make a needle out of this. It's like, no, dude, that's still just more straw.
Andy is absolutely correct. There are times when I listen to Az and sometimes he laughs. He laughs his head off, and he takes my ear off. But other times, I can understand that.
He can be incredibly perceptive and very, very good at describing and articulating how he feels about something, and other times he just barks like a dog. I know.
Yeah.
I feel kinship in that regard.
Actually, it got worse because then this person here, who calls themselves Boy Love Addicted. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Sorry, but I don't imagine that just means he's gay. I assume then that means that boys rather than men, or I don't know, could be a woman, but either way the take is insane.
Sounds like a PDF file.
The AVGN song is fascist. He promises to take you back to the past. This echoes the sentiment of the German Nazi Party, who promised to take Germany back to the past, a past that never existed. Everything about this is wrong, which is why the response is this has to be satire. I mean, do you remember the AVGN theme song? It's so it's
yeah, dude.
Oh, hang on, just a second. Let me put this one. Hang on here.
He's gonna take you back to the past to play the shitty games that suck ass. He'd rather have a buffalo, take a diarrhea dump in his ear. He'd rather eat
Never thought I'd ever play this.
asshole,
right?
And down it with beer.
Okay, that's probably enough for you to realize that this is not in any way
Peter Griffin went on a diet and became a content
dog
creator.
A Nazi dog whistle, ladies and gentlemen. Insanity. What it has produced, though, that's rather nice is the meme now of everybody calling Kamala Harris a shitload of fuck. Because that is one of the first, it's one of the first AVGN isms that was created in the show. It's like in the second or first, maybe the first episode. I can't remember. He's still talking about like Simon's Quest or
his first episodes were kind of light,
Quest.
and then I think it was about the third one where he went like
he just goes,
all
what a
in on the
shitload
character.
of fuck.
Yeah.
And it just carried on. It carried on from there. Majors Guild has joined us for 5 more. Thank you very much. And, says, you might be shocked, but as a man far older than you, I've watched every episode. James and Mike are both lovely people. Yeah, I liked Mike too, although there was a lot of controversy around him, allegedly like showing his dick to people and stuff like that. And he had a bad temper apparently as well, and he kind of spurged out once. And then when the multi-channel network took over, he was basically kicked out, which I think
he's a problematic white guy. You know,
well, I mean, I liked Mike well enough. I mean, he did the art for the episodes and stuff like that, and those were the thumbnails until the MCN took over Cinemassacre, and now they had all new thumbnails. And if you watch a modern AVGN, they don't play the original Kyle Justin song anymore. It's some digital, you know.
It sounds like a chip tune. Yeah,
and it's okay, but it's you know, it's not the same. No, not the same at all.
It's the difference between getting like a mom and pop pizza or getting one from like Domino's.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, I guess the only thing I can say is to these fucking psychos who have decided to drag AVGN into everything, thank you for letting us go back to the past to play the shitty games that suck ass. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. It has been complete chaos since Trump took over. People are just losing their fucking minds. What about his staffing then? This has been something quite positive, I think. Have you seen the people that he has appointed so far?
Oh,
I mean,
several
in particular.
One in particular who served very well in the Obama administration and in the first Trump administration. There are a few slots that need to be filled in, folks, and some potential appointees I'm a bit suspect about. But this is one appointment that I will stand by until the end of time, because this man is reality-based, bottled into a person.
I mean, I can't really argue with that. He is pretty much just reality-based. Yeah, he's the poster boy for it. Every single article, every question this guy's ever been asked, he just stands his ground and tells you why he's done this and why it makes sense. And he's destroyed so many people. I've got some clips here we can watch. There's a couple of fun ones when he was getting chewed out. And remember, he was working for Obama first. The separating families things. That was Obama, not Trump.
Yeah, and this was the man who proposed it. And Barack Obama, President Obama, believed it to be such a good idea that it became a policy for the Obama administration's second term. It became a policy for Joe Biden, but this man was a bit too extreme to carry it out. And the whole idea of separating immigrant families
at the end of the day, right? It's not our country. It is John's country. But as a person, who has been involved in this across all different countries where I've lived, where I live now, and America, and how that has trickled down onto everything, I'm very, very, very interested in Trump succeeding. Because I at least get to see one country potentially fucking turn around and do something right for a change. And speaking as a legal immigrant who is married and has a kid in this country, I have a lot of, thoughts on this. And I have no sympathy for people who try to game the system by sneaking into another country and then thinking that just because they've had a kid there now that they get to stay. The kid should be kicked out with them. Unfortunate, very unfortunate, but necessary. Otherwise, the laws mean nothing, and this guy knows this. So let's watch some of what he says. And
Mr. Holman, do you understand?
This guy is a fucking pussy. Sorry, I don't know why it's loading like this.
That the consequences of separation of many children will be lifelong trauma and carried across generations. Have we not learned from the internment of Japanese Americans? Mr. Holman, I'm a father. Do you have children? How can you possibly allow this to happen under your watch? Do you not care? Is it because these children don't look like children that are around you? I don't get.
Okay. So straight out of the gate,
Emotional baiting.
This guy needs a punch in the face. Okay. He's doing straight out of the gate. He's doing the typical left-wing thing where he's trying to emotionally manipulate the guy by tying it to his own children. And then he's also at the same time trying to be a bit clever with his leftist tactics by also implying that he's a racist.
This is sleight of hand. Dude's a sorcerer.
Have you got any thoughts on this before he fires back? Because it's going to be really satisfying when he does.
Well, my main this, of course, 2019 Oversight Committee of the Democrats basically going through and having good talks with Thomas Homan or Oman, or however you pronounce his name. My main response would be, why weren't you criticizing me when I was doing this for Obama?
Well, because everybody was lulled to sleep because Black Bush was installed for that reason. Because
Obama's policy when it came to immigration was the same as Trump's policy at the beginning of his administration.
Right.
Why? Because Thomas Homan was the main man initially in the first Trump administration to deal with immigration.
Right.
And he was also a senior influence during the second Obama administration.
And now he only has more power.
Right. But
now he's the border czar.
Right.
Which is
But
a step higher.
People don't want to take context into account. They just want to like deal with the content of like who, like it's like the whole thing about trying to say that the government's ruined because Trump's going to be the president. It's like, no,
it's insane. And the only reason they're drudging it back up now is to have something to fire at him. But this could easily all come out in the wash that he was for Obama first and all this stuff. At the end of the day, though, I'm just here to salute a guy who stares this shit down and says, fuck you and your logic.
Get it.
Exactly.
Have you ever held a deceased child in your arms?
You're a retard for asking that question.
First of all, your comments are disgusting. I've served my country. I've served my country for 34 years.
I find your
this is out of control.
As well.
I've served my country for 34 years, and yes, I held a 5-year-old boy in my arms. In back that tractor trailer, I knelt down beside him and said a prayer for him because I knew what his last 30 minutes of his life were like, and I had a 5-year-old son at the time. What I've been trying to do my 34 years serving my nation is to save lives. So for you to sit there and insult my integrity and my love for my country and for children, that's why this whole thing needs to be fixed. And you're the member.
We agree on that.
Fix it. This room has seen what I.
So there you go. Yeah, he absolutely kicks off.
A bureaucrat that's probably never been close to any real danger or anyone in danger, trying to moral authoritize over someone who actually has to deal with this stuff on a battlefield level.
This one is funny.
Next, he gets to talk to Queen Crazy herself. And honestly, this is, if anyone's ever looking for some thumbnail imagery of AOC looking as fucking crazy as she's ever looked in her life, this coming up the next few seconds.
There's plenty of material for that, actually, but this is one of the better clips. This one's a gold mine.
Yeah.
Yourself, Kevin Mikulinin, and Francis Cisna. Is this correct? Did you sign the memo?
Look at her, right? The way she looks, just in general, like her appearance, the look in her face, and everything that you might need to see there. And you go back, I'll take it back a few frames because you can apparently using the pointy
He's
bracket.
sick of her already.
He's got the look in it. Like she looks like a deer in fucking headlights. And guy is the truck.
Yes, he's like
I'm not going to slow down.
If Commander Shepard merged with a real life veteran, this is Thomas Homan. This is a man who's been a border patrol agent since he was 23 years old. Worked his way up the ranks from the front lines in regards to border security to influencing policy, coming up with ideas, serving multiple administrations. This will be his third time with a third administration. He's worked with Democrats and Republicans.
He's come out of retirement twice.
Yeah.
This is the second time. Trump
because
he
those
said there's no one else who can do this job as effectively as him. one else who is able to see the big picture enough, because they'll try to drag him down with all of these stories. Like, well, she's going to do it in this very clip. She's going to try her absolute damnedest to emotionally manipulate him into seeing all these people as innocent when they're criminals.
Exactly.
And let's just
about chasing ankle biter.
I'd have to see what you. Yeah,
give her.
I'd be happy to provide it. And we'll provide it over. But I would like to note that here it says the official recommendation. There were 3 different options presented. The third included the option for family separation.
Okay, so she's using the term family separation, which is not actually mentioned in the document. This document from the Obama administration, by the way.
This initiative would pursue prosecution of all amenable adults, including those presenting with a family unit. Mr. Homan, your name is on this. Is this correct?
Yes, I signed that memo.
So you...
No fucking problem answering that question. How is it to see a person in this environment actually not filibustering at all?
It's like seeing a space marine talking to politicians.
He's like, yes, I signed that. It's not like when they had fucking Mayorkas in there, and it's like, is this your signature? He's like, I don't remember anything to do with this. I don't know. I don't know what the resources are. I don't know what they've sent to you. It's like, do you know anything about the department you're supposed to be running?
Yeah, let me just take a very detailed look at this document. Oh, I can't see I can't see the words properly.
Right. No, this is like
knows
very
what
much.
He has no fucking fear, no doubt, no second guessing. He knows that what he's doing is ultimately for the best.
I mean, this is almost like
he's
the whole...
put in a very difficult job where he's going to have to make an awful lot of these kind of decisions. You need a guy with balls of fucking steel.
Well, that's the thing about this. Is this like the two polar ends of the spectrum, almost having a conversation, like, you know, where like the magnet is looped around itself, because you have somebody who's very clearly just a soldier right there at the ground level, and then you have like this authoritarian bureaucrat who, like, you know, tries to do stuff through, you know, the power of the pen and not even knowing.
She's like she's like a melting. She's like a melting pile of ice. You know, slowly slushing around and trying to erode him, but he isn't made of stone. He's made of adamantium. You can't do anything to me, bitch. You know. Anyway, let's carry on, because he kills her.
You are the author of the family separation policy.
I am not the author of this memo.
You're not the author, but you signed the memo.
Yes, a zero tolerance.
Yes, a zero tolerance memo.
So you provided the official recommendation to Secretary Nielsen on family for the United States to pursue family separation.
See, there she goes again, deliberately misrepresenting the terminology. She says you suggested family separation. No, family separation is a byproduct of what he recommended, which is zero tolerance. Don't put words in his mouth, you fucking sneaky bitch.
Well, you have to remember, she's the one who said it's better to be morally right than factually accurate, and so this is like her posturing and positioning.
She's a
the
bartender
argument.
pretending to be a politician.
Right.
Gave Secretary Nielsen numerous recommendations on how to secure the border and save lives.
But it says here that you gave her numerous options, but the recommendation was option 3, family separation.
What I'm saying, this is not the only paper where we've given the Secretary numerous options to secure the border and save lives.
And so the recommendation...
She keeps coming back to family separation, which is not the terminology.
Of the many that you recommended family separation.
She's a virtue signaling deranged nutbag. Yeah.
Look at her eyes. These are crazy eyes, ladies and gentlemen. If you are going on a date with a woman and she shows up and she's got eyes like that, you go out the bathroom window. Get the fuck out of there. Do not stick it in crazy, ever.
Yeah, no matter what you say to her, it's going to rattle around in her head, and it's just going to kind of like...
Because there's nothing else in there.
Right. And then it'll just kind of like fall right out again, because the only thing that she cares about is the shit that she's focused on.
Yeah. It's like dropping a ball bearing into a tin can. It's fucking just a lot of empty noise. All right.
I recommend a zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is whenever U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
There it is. Checkmate. Straight out of the gate. He's like, yeah, what are you going to do? If I get arrested, I'm going to be separated from my fucking kids. If a guy holds up a bank, he's going to be separated from his kids.
Right.
What do you want me to do? Like, he's a criminal.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
She's scared shitless.
Interpreted. She said it herself, though.
She's
Interpreted.
basically taking the blame. She's completely thrown herself under the bus here. But you even just look at the way she talks. She sort of nods her head like 3 or 4 times before beginning the sentence because she still isn't really sure how to talk to this bulldog. She doesn't know. This is why I reckon we should just start calling Tom Homan the Wall, because that is what he fucking is. He's Trump's wall. Anyway.
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Homan, with
family.
all due respect,
None.
legal asylees
There's
are
no
not
due.
charged with any crime.
There we go. Batshit crazy. Look at her. That is her trying to be assertive, right? You see the look in her eyes. She's like this. Like she knows that she's really trying to make a point, but she's so
It's a caricature
petrified.
of strength.
Yeah, it's like a picture of a brave face drawn over a terrified set of features. You know, it's fucking ludicrous. And also, what she said is actually only demonstrating the
Play us
problem.
a song for the Hollow Man. Is
I
what
don't
I'm
know if
thinking,
she. I don't know if she is factually correct in
it's
saying
it's completely
legal
wrong.
asylees are not charged with any crime. But
Domestic violence.
Legal asylees are not.
is that a word as well, by the way? Asylees? I've never
Well,
heard of that.
asylum seekers, but she,
Yeah,
you know,
it's a they them
modernism.
term.
Yeah, she's the one who came up with Latinx as well. So you know, like
She
she's
says
all
a
about
person who is seeking or has been granted political asylum. That's not what you're talking about.
No,
you're talking about illegal immigrants.
and he bulldozes her.
I
in
know,
regards
I
to
know. I just wanted to unpack it together with you guys, make sure we're all on the same
right. Well,
page.
she says the word asylees. She's making something up on the spot because she doesn't want to use detained, you know, or like a detainee
she's
or anything like
good.
that. So she's like, yeah, and that's the whole thing. That's like this is bureaucracy in action. You know, this is how like genetic modification, which you're not supposed.
This is the left's principal tactic and has been for the last 20 years to change the meanings of words. Literally that.
The eyes of Sauron are
became,
not
you know, directed
breathed in
evolution,
flame.
became whatever the
They're
fuck
The
dark.
mouth's not much either. She's got fangs, it looks like.
I
Anyway.
But yeah,
she's got
but yeah,
BJ
no,
lips. That explains how she's got where she
well,
is.
you know, this is what I say about AOC is you can't spell cocaine without AOC. And when they, you know, they had the scandal a couple of years ago, she is Capitol Hill's cocaine girl. That's all she is. Like when they had that whole thing about like them talking about like the late night orgies and this and that, she's the one who shouted the loudest about we don't do that. And it's like I think this lady doth protest too much. Did we hit a nerd?
Certainly.
You know,
Certainly.
I mean,
Respect.
So anyway,
Legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
she thinks she's
When
got
you're in the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum and go through the port of entry, do it the legal way.
Oh. And she has nothing to say to that.
The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay.
And then she just moves on. Destroyed in a second. And just for the people who are watching who want to see it, there's a third clip too.
Mr. Homan, please respect
I have a fourth as well.
chair and the authority of the chair. The time of the gentleman has expired.
I've asked you politely to let me go beyond my time, and you let other people go beyond their time, but not to Tom Homan. He don't get to go beyond his time.
Mr. Homan, we have approved
this is a
an
circus.
agreement
This is a circus.
between the Republicans and the Democrats with the ranking member. We increased the time of
She's a
one
fucking hack,
witness, one member of Congress who was interrupted by a protest. That is done with the approval of the ranking member. Please respect the chair's authority. The
I respect the chair's authority, but the chair.
Mr. Homan,
you work for me. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer. You work for me.
Yeah, got her. Fucking hell, they're
the
calling
worst
for a
thing-
nuke emoji in the chat. I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to come up with one.
and the worst
Need-
thing about
need
it
more
is
members,
she's Indian born.
Oh yeah. Okay,
yeah,
I've
this
got
is,
one more.
one of the people who's she got into power when I was living in Washington, and yeah, she's exactly what Washington makes: bureaucratic
Oh, she's a
authoritarians.
maniac. She's a maniac, no doubt. I've got this as well. This is I couldn't find the actual clip, but this is from the Megyn Kelly show. She was playing as well.
Democrats on this issue and at the media is a thing of beauty. It's truly beautiful. Last month, he was interviewed by 60 Minutes.
I don't care what anyone says. She's a fox.
Let's watch.
We have seen one estimate that says it would cost $88 billion to deport 1 million people a year.
I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Love this guy. Just look at that. Look at his face. Like,
Yeah.
So-
Economics isn't his specialty.
Yeah, well, why are you
Immigration
asking me?
is.
I'm here
Yeah.
to make sure that people get the fuck out.
Exactly.
Is that what American taxpayers should expect?
What price do you put on national security? Is that worth it?
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
Put together. Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
matter-of-factly.
Amazing. Tom Homan. What the fuck, man? He's a pit bull.
Yeah, but this man has his specialty: immigration and
No one
national
else has
security.
said it. I've
Well,
been
yeah.
waiting for someone to say this for years. I never knew he had. Anyway, go on.
The point I was making, he knows his specialty. He stays in his lane. First, the interviewer tried to put an
'Cause he's a
economic
man.
question. Yeah, he put an economic question towards him. That's not his specialty. So he basically, in a very honest and open way, said, doesn't know if it's accurate or not. Then she tried to make another argument, and then he pivoted from something he wasn't specialized into something he was, national security and immigration, which completely floored her. Then she
Correct
put
way
over
to argue, by the way.
yeah, then she put over a bait question, which he just answered openly, honestly, and transparently, which would open up a can of worms, folks, because it would mean deporting American citizens. You know, products of illegals, in my view, are illegals, and I'm sure that's Thomas's point of view as well. But to demon rats, if you're born on American soil, even through illegals, then you are an American citizen, which opens up a
Yes.
whole legal can of worms. But he stuck in his lane, his specialty, and in his view, families should be deported together. A product of an illegal is an illegal.
It's unfortunate because, yes, they're not technically illegal immigrants themselves. They're born on U.S. soil. That makes them U.S. citizens. But they are also under the
Compromised.
duty of care, and they are dependents for illegal immigrants. So it really is the kind of thing where you should say to the person, right, you are going to be deported. You can either take your kid with you, or you can leave them in the care of the states. That is entirely up to you, but you are not staying here. And then it ain't your problem anymore because the parent, using their responsibility as the caregiver, has made the decision for the child, which, again, unfortunate. I don't want kids to suffer. I have a kid in a foreign country, a country that I'm not a resident, an actual citizen of at all, but I can now, of course, apply for the right visa because I'm married.
Well, I mean,
and I will.
this
But
is
I'm a legal immigrant. I would never play that fucking game. I've had a friend who got locked up and deported for it, and and he actually got memory hold. He became kind of a political prisoner, used as an example by a corrupt guy trying to cover his previous bad behavior, giving luxury first class flights to Chinese scammers and stuff. But at the end of the day, you can that's enough for me to know I should probably never fuck around with this system.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is something that, it's trying to make an exception where there otherwise wouldn't be one, just for a matter of argument's sake. If I did say, I'm an illegal immigrant, I come here, I, get married, have kids, and then I break into a bank, to go with what he was saying. That doesn't make it any less likely for me to go to jail because I have a family now, or because you don't, and so that's the whole thing. Is
seeing your kids.
Right.
And
If
you
you're
won't be able
harboring
to
a fugitive,
affect them
and if you're harboring a fugitive, those are additional charges. That's like conspiring, and so this whole thing spins out to and so that's why when you're saying at that point, Will, as a parent, you have to decide: do I want to hold on to my family, which means the whole family gets deported to the point of origin of the person who's causing the corruption or the compromise in the law? Or do you at that point in time say, all right, well, I'm going to put this child in dutiful care of the parent that we're going to allow to be here, because, or make them a full out ward of the state. And then both parents, so like, that's what parents have to do. Like, this is reality, in terms of like actually the difference between caring about someone with a sense of responsibility and obligation and things like that, or people that just kind of think, oh, I'm so happy to be around you and my feelings, I don't want them to be hurt.
These people can't be like detained in prison or offered, some kind of citizenship program, because again, it's a bad example for everybody else.
Exactly.
And further than that as well, you can't really guarantee that will work or actually produce citizens. You don't know who the fuck these people are.
But it's privileged status within the criminal code though too, and that none of it is so weird.
With your own country, and you should just kick them the fuck out because they've broken the law. And if you are going to be America first, then that's the way it is. We need a guy like this in the UK so fucking badly. And the last thing I want to point out about this that I haven't heard anyone actually bring up is the way that the Democrats here are trying to use children and, the importance of children having their parents around, as an emotional...
Tokenized virtue signals.
But at the same time, they're also trying to say that everybody should be able to abort their children even after they've born.
Hypocritical exploitation. Yeah,
which is,
and that's but that's the thing about virtue signalers is they don't actually stand on principles and values that give them like a fundamental platform to operate from. They conveniently lean to whatever virtue signaling kind of argument will help them in the moment, but they don't have any actual
power.
Yeah, and this is the whole reason why I talk about aspects of sorcery and dark magic, things like that, because that's what these people do is they try to cast you in a spell, and get you into like an emotional kind of tism to where you can't actually discern. And it's just all just it's just whatever they can do in the moment.
Homan, because Homan is a man.
Yeah, the Homan mindset the Homan mindset of as long as it solves the problem. That immigration has been a constant problem for the United States. It has been for the entire Western world. If it solves the problem, make it so. And if existing legislation makes and if existing legislation like birthright citizenship makes that difficult, well then get rid of it. The soil doesn't fucking give birth to you, folks. Just because you're born in a certain place doesn't mean you're of that nation. And I, for one, have always believed that to be a stupid mindset to have. You're born from your parents and their origins from not just a cultural, but a natural perspective are your origins as well. So whatever it takes to solve the problem. Thank God we have got people like this now. They identify a problem and they find a solution.
America
and they do it.
We haven't.
And to piggyback on what Ryan's saying really quickly, here in America these days, because it costs so much to have kids at hospitals, they were talking about this yesterday on Countercast, how like people in America will go to Britain, and they'll go overseas to Europe and where they have socialized medicine and all this kind of stuff. They'll have their kids there because it costs less to get a plane ticket and a vacation than it does to have a week stay at the hospital here in America. So I mean, like, there's fundamental flaws. No matter where
they're British or French or German,
but then again,
the sovereignty of the country that comes first. And if you've got people there, you can't use their children as an emotional crutch because they have potentially tried to use the fact that they've had children as a way to continue to live somewhere that they are not legally allowed to live. And that is, in many cases, should be a harsher punishment for doing that, but you can't punish the child. It's not the child's fault. But again, it has to ultimately be the parents' decision. You can either take the kid with you and continue to raise them, or they'll probably have a worse fate.
Raise the kid as a border patrol agent. That would be the greatest F you.
That would be the hilarious thing, yeah. Or make the Democrats drive them back to the airport. I missed this earlier on, and I do apologize for that. The real Bob Newbin has become a member all by himself. Thank you very much for that.
They're sooner to drive the parents back to the airport than they are to drive them to their own sanctuary cities, to be quite honest, because they're very big on the whole NIMBY, not my backyard kind of thing of like, oh, well, we're going to have all this hope and care and consideration and love and just
yeah.
We want to do right by these people until they
they'll all just go to
like,
the
do
UK
something.
where they can get in easily with no questions asked, apparently, thanks to Labour. But we will move on because the best news for us is this, really, as far as I can discern. This is Trump announcing his plans for moderating the moderators of freedom of speech on the platforms that have been found.
Look at that picture, though.
Compromised and corrupted.
I've never seen Trump look like that. Never.
Yeah.
That still image, that frame.
Dodgy frame. Anyway, let's listen.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple, just like dominoes, one by one.
I mean, that is absolutely right. It's especially true in America because that is more or less that's the First Amendment, right? So that is very high up on the list of things that the country is founded on. So
it's
the fact that they've been able to get away with
sword.
censoring it for so long is insane.
Yeah, the first is the shield, the second is the sword, and the Constitution is effectively the body.
Yeah.
They'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because
I really enjoy listening to this guy say these things.
It's like seeing two people talk. I mean, he gives his main point. That's the primary guy.
Oh, and then he has a little phrase underneath it. Yeah.
And then
that's the way he talks. He'll go, we're going to blah, blah, blah. It'll be very simple. And, it's like that.
Two people talking, isn't
it's
it?
like he's his own hype man. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's the chorus and the verse,
You the rapper on stage, you got like Eminem or someone there, and then they've got like another guy behind him who joins in and puts up some of the lines so that they don't have to take breaths and things like that. That's what he's doing.
Because they've taken it away. In recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people. They have collaborated to suppress vital information on everything from elections to public health. The censorship cartel must be dismantled.
Cartel. Oh, God, where do we get more guys like this?
I mean, getting right to the quick of the matter.
What it is. He doesn't give a fuck.
Well,
I love it.
Trump did tell Homan to do whatever it takes to wipe out the cartels who are trafficking people. So
you just know Elon Musk has had a hand in this because of what he found in the Twitter files.
Well, Trump was
what did they find? They found that the FBI was sending agents to work there after they left it wasn't just the FBI, but they found the FBI were emailing them. They censored the laptop story. Zuckerberg has confessed to this as well. They just did as they were told. No one was policing it. And so they just decided, I guess we can just tell these companies what to do, or we'll take away their ability to function. I mean, YouTube, for example, is a perfect example of this because YouTube is actually behaving in two ways at the same time. I saw Asmongold talking about this as well, which is a very fascinating thing because YouTube is a platform, right? It's not a publisher. And because of that exact definition as a platform, you are allowed to publish virtually. We're allowed to watch this speech right now without any fear of copyright because YouTube shields us from the potential copyright or doesn't, depending on what they decide as a publisher. So they're trying to be both. But if YouTube suddenly lost the rights to be considered a platform, which the government can do, YouTube disappears in one day. They will go out of business and $1 trillion a year business will disappear.
Gold will turn into lead real fucking fast.
YouTube is censoring us now, but if YouTube loses their mandate as a platform, every company that makes every game, every music song, every movie, every TV show you've ever seen a clip of on any YouTube channel ever will sue YouTube.
Right. And that in and of itself, like, you know, the funny thing is this
And
actually
lead
shows
turns to shit. You literally described gold to lead to shit in what, 2 sentences?
Right, but this actually goes to show like what the actual fascism is, you know, and pointing out like the collusion between these corpo states and the actual, you know, governing state and their ability
Imagine
to
if
try
there
to
was
lock
no
down
state.
and
YouTube could do whatever it wants.
Right, but
they
but-
would throttle people. They would support
Ryan-
people. This is an
But they
example.
basically do whatever they want at the moment.
this
because
is an
they're holding
example-
entirely to the advertisers, and the
Well, John-
advertisers are holding to the investment banks, and the investment banks are holding to Switzerland.
Right, but that's the point I'm getting at, though, is that, you know, like these large scale constructs working together, you know, from bureaucracy through bureaucracy of the state and the collusion to the corporatism, that is actual legit fascism, not mean tweets, not being an asshole. Like, you know, like you can be an asshole and not be an authoritarian. You can be kind as all get out and be an authoritarian. That's what the censorship kind of doctrine is all about.
Yeah.
Is let's take away the mean words. And if we take away the mean words, then we can't be seen as being authoritarian because we're doing it for your betterment. You know, it's for the greater good, and the greater good has always led to the worst kind of evil. And so like that's when you know, like when you see the sheepdog barking at the wolf, you have to have a strong sheepdog to deal with the wolves, to keep them at bay, because the sheep don't, you know. And so like that's what we're actually seeing play out right now.
More. Anyway, let's crack on.
And destroyed, and it must happen. Hotel must be dismantled and destroyed, and it must happen immediately. And here's my plan. First, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens.
Excellent.
You will be free, John, to speak
You
your
can
mind.
say you can drop as many F, C, and N bombs on Facebook as you want.
I will then ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis or disinformation.
This one's very important because this is their their tactic that they've only really brought out in the last 6 years or so.
Yep.
That's misinformation. Who decided that?
Right. The arbiters of truth. You know, this is like
The
very
community
Orwellian kind of.
decided that.
It's Orwell, exactly.
And I will begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship, directly or indirectly, whether they are the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health, Human Services, the FBI, the DOJ, no matter who they are. Second, I will order the Department.
Jesus fucking Christ, that is epic.
So you're not going to have a government for very long then, Trump. Because they'll all be gone.
No, they just don't have a mandate on speech.
Right.
Simple. That's basically all he said there.
Let's just take back the internet to where it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's basically what it is. Take it back to when Facebook was still young. Yeah.
Department of Justice to investigate all parties involved in the new online censorship regime, which is absolutely destructive and terrible.
There's your backup statement.
Yeah, that's
Ryan.
the
Yeah,
second
there's
guy.
the
Trump
guy
isn't
next
a
to him.
person. He's people.
2 people, yeah.
And to aggressively prosecute any and all crimes identified.
Love
These include possible violations of federal civil rights law, campaign finance laws, federal election law, securities law, and antitrust laws, the Hatch Act, and a host of other potential criminal, civil, regulatory, and constitutional offenses. To
Jeez.
assist in these efforts,
Sweeping.
I am urging House Republicans to immediately send preservation letters, and we have to do this right now, to the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and every Silicon Valley tech giant, ordering them not to destroy evidence of censorship.
So you're now mandated that you may not tamper with your own records until Trump takes office. Yeah.
Oh shit, Joe, we got a letter. Oh, just put it in the fire with the rest of them.
That won't work. Gil.
Third, upon my inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk.
His Congress, by the way, this time.
My inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk revising Section 230 to get big online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection under Section 230 if they meet high standards of neutrality.
Okay. So, goodbye shadow bans.
Yeah, goodbye channel suppression. Fucking
That's
hell.
exactly what that is. Yes, it's the same thing, just different.
It'll have to be it'll have to be the 4 great foes instead of the 5 now. We'll have to get rid of channel suppression as a term.
Yeah, I mean, so I was pointed out that they might just move YouTube to another country, but then they'll lose out on a lot of advertising. So
right.
But then anyway, so the point is now, yeah, any previous collusion will be exposed and must be. Otherwise, you are going to basically and all of this and any political biases as well will be rooted out, and all of this must be done before he takes office, and otherwise you lose your protection under Section 230, which is precisely what allows YouTube to function as it does.
Right.
There will be no point advertising on YouTube anywhere.
And it does cause massive reverberations, folks. I mean, the principle of net neutrality is not just for the United States, it's worldwide. And considering the state and all the people, all the creators in Russia are banned from using YouTube and all Google products as a result of the conflict with Ukraine, because of what President Trump is doing, that ban needs to be null and void. And once it becomes null and void, they'll have to pay that exorbitant fine that Russia gave them, which would be more than enough for the country to rebuild after the fact, even if it is in installments. So expect many people, many prominent establishment demon rats to call Trump a Russia lover again because of this ruling. That he's
Well, the other aspect of this too, if YouTube were to say, for just argument, leave the country to start up a new headquarters so they could bypass these, very clear-cut freedom of speech laws, then they're just going to give the game away, tip their hat entirely, and you'll see a mass exodus to Rumble at that point in time.
He would put restrictions on them operating in America.
Yeah. So so they either have to actually go by the rule of law, and actually start abiding by, just allowing people to be independent artists of their own regard, and we can actually have things more contextually based than just a whole bunch of content milling of creators that are held to, a paradigm of, privatized kind of conceit. And that's, I'm all for actually being able to have more diversity of thought take place than, all this kind of stuff that leads people to the fence sitting and the, just the, how can I say this without saying it? How can I, try to get the message across without saying any words that might, get my channel suppressed or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. We ideally, if he plays his cards right, we are once again free to basically say whatever the fuck we like. Right. And, I wouldn't be surprised if, there'll still be, limitations on swearing. Sure. But if I want to say a certain forum from a certain mountain village in Central Europe and by name to criticize the ever-loving shit out of them, I will theoretically be allowed to do that. Without having to use 20 words like I just did. Anyway,
those bastards up in the Carpathian Mountains, it's very annoying.
Yeah, there's some real bridge builders up there, is all I'm saying.
Sure. Let's move on.
Meet high standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination. We should require these platforms to increase their efforts to take down unlawful content such as child exploitation.
Goodbye, Instagram.
By Twitch.
Twitch, yeah. There's all kinds of sick shit that goes on. Ironically, X has gone from being, Twitter, which was riddled with the shit, to having a much sterner, stricter set of regulations on that now. It's just basically, let's make the whole internet like X.
Right.
And that's I'm here for it. Let's carry on.
And promoting terrorism while dramatically curtailing their power to arbitrarily restrict lawful speech. Fourth, we need to break up the entire toxic censorship industry that has arisen under the false guise of tackling so-called mis and disinformation. The
Pay no attention to the big green subtitles. They're getting it all wrong.
federal government should immediately stop funding all nonprofits. And
this is good. You get all those fucking non-profit fact checker organizations. Bye-bye.
Academic programs that support this authoritarian project. If any U.S. university is discovered to have engaged in censorship activities or election interference,
they're all fucked.
Yeah,
every single educational institution. I think he's gonna mention withdrawing federal funds, and if that is the case, another pillar of the establishment, education.
Oh, yeah. The Department of Education is on his hit list.
I hate to use their kind of terminology, but the far left pipeline dies.
Yeah. No, specifically, like he has a whole speech. I'm not sure if it's a smaller point of this one or a different one, but the defederalization of the Department of Education back to a states-based kind of.
He's done that. Yeah.
Yep.
That was I remember a few months ago. I think it was Matt Walsh. I was hearing saying that he wanted Trump to do that. So that's great news as well. Anyway,
in the past, such as flagging social media content.
This is
for
what they've all
removal
done.
of blacklisting.
Universities.
Those universities should lose federal research dollars and federal student loan support for a period of 5 years and maybe more.
Maybe
we
more.
should also enact new
Maybe
laws
more.
laying out clear criminal penalties for federal bureaucrats who partner with private entities to do an end run around the Constitution.
Very bad
Deprive
people.
Americans of their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights.
Oh,
In
it's
other
real bad
words,
stuff.
Deprive them of their vote. And once you lose those elections, and once you lose your borders like we have, you no longer have a country. Furthermore, to confront the problems of major platforms being infiltrated by legions of former deep staters and intelligence officials,
What'd I say?
there should be a 7-year cooling off period before any employee of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DNI, DHS, or DOD is allowed to take a job at a company possessing vast quantities of U.S. user data.
Oh, you fucking hero. I just don't know how to explain how much I respect this man.
Unless RFK
love is
kills
not an
the
overstatement.
FDA.
I gotta tell you, I
Goddamn.
think I love him. It's just amazing. I mean, yeah,
Primary him or the secondary him that speaks after him?
both together. The Gestalt entity that is Donald Trump. Love you, sir. Keep it
The
up.
Trump mindset.
Fifth, the time has finally come for Congress to pass a digital Bill of Rights.
A digital Bill of Rights. This is decades overdue. Decades.
And the reason it's decades overdue is especially for the United States, it would have to apply internationally because of how interconnected the internet is, and that most mainstream social media platforms are based in the United States of America. There are a few exceptions. I think TikTok is the number one exception. But the reason why a digital Bill of Rights is desperately overdue is that it would apply internationally, and national rules applied internationally. A lot of people
this is the
outside
Iron Fist shit, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is him being a dictator for the day to put all this in motion, and then it will have to adhere to his fucking terms, and everything will become far, far better. This is going to, I don't know what to call it except the death of censorship. Like you won't be legally allowed to censor.
It's the death of globalism, and it's ironically through a digital Bill of Rights, nationally imposed in the United States, that operates globally. So globalism kills globalism.
I fucking love it. If I was ever going to do a straight political channel, I once said if I was ever going to deviate and do another channel that was just politics, I would call it the Will of Rights.
Right.
It's not too late.
Yeah, I might do it. Yeah. What are you saying, John?
You never know. Well, like, what they're talking about here, this would effectively kind of bring an end to the federal state of collectivism, and put it back on more of the individual, person here at being more sovereign within their own frame, and the idea that we are the United States of America, not the United Federation. And that's what people need to understand, is like we need to go back to having a state-based kind of, configuration of, it's like you said, you prefer the WWF to WWE, that the Federation in the sense of like, it's a whole bunch of confederated kind of, individual cities, well, not city states, but states at there's 50 of them. And so that gives you 50 different perspectives. But when you go and like, try to have this top down, regulation at the federal level, that's where you run into this whole thing about like, a controlling class can undermine all these states in a wide variety of ways. And that's what's caused a lot of the compromise and corruption here, is that we've had these two warring aspects of what it is to actually have governance for individuals. And the more that you give over to the federal level, the more it takes from the individual freedoms and puts it in that collectivist kind of mindset and framing and paradigm. So to bring it into collectivism and effectively like, sever the cord to what is all this globalist corporatism that is taking place, that's the best thing anybody can hope for.
It has repercussions beyond the United States, which is why a digital Bill of Rights has been delayed for so long, because it would operate with all US online-based companies. And let's face it, folks, for the most part, a lot of people in the West, certainly, less so outside of the West, but certainly in the West, certainly, use American-based online products, especially for content creation and social media. And I have to say personally, understanding, the mindset outside the United States, even the US's closest allies would not abide by that. And that is why after this digital Bill of Rights is proposed and no doubt enacted, each country will have their own to undermine, to the best possible extent, the ones that the United States puts forward. And what we're going to see, I think, rather than the no digital Bill of Rights, you'll have them fighting each other in the legal sense between country to country. Some people will base themselves in the US, some people will base themselves outside, and you'll have that back and forth, which will then push for this worldwide digital Bill of Rights, which of course the US is going to oppose. One way our opposition could get around this would be to just hightail it out of the US, but that isn't an easy process. And even if it was, then the United States government could easily just disassociate itself with any country that harbors the companies that flee. And the US is one of the few nations on planet Earth that you don't want to fuck with internationally, economically, militarily, culturally. If they isolate you, you're pretty much screwed.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Should we carry on?
Sure.
Yeah.
This should include a right to digital due process. In other words, government officials should need a court order to take down online content, not send information requests such as the FBI was sending to Twitter. Furthermore, when users of big online platforms have their content or accounts removed, throttled, shadow banned, or otherwise restricted, no matter what name they use.
Very bad
there you
stuff.
go, buddy. There you go. It's very bad stuff. Yeah. There you go, though, right? Like, we're talking literally about freaking the very things that we deal with every day. Censorship, shadow banning, suppression.
No matter what name they use, they should have the right to be informed that it's happening.
How good would it be to actually have to have YouTube tell us what the fuck they're doing?
Right. Rather than like they're nebulous, like, well, you need to like change your content. What's the problem?
Yeah,
you need to figure that for yourself.
It looks like you made a mistake.
Yeah, you get a monthly email. Excuse me, reality based. You are getting shadow banned. This is why
we're shadow banning you because
You're
they won't be
white.
able to do that now anyway because they won't be allowed to by the terms of the rest of this.
Right. The right to a specific explanation of the reason.
Sorry, Ryan, go ahead, man.
I was just going to say that what Trump is proposing, and I'm sure it will be enacted, because of course promises made,
Who's
promises
stop
kept.
him right now?
But looking at this could easily be exploited by those outside the United States who want to speak their minds. I mean, a great example would be reality-based. We're well aware of the US's corporate rules, John, the two of us, how corporations can technically be people with their own rights. I mean, I could transfer operational control to John. He's based in the US, and we can call reality-based a US-based entity where John gets the rights and the publicity while I get, operational control. And if I can do that, so many people outside the US could do that too and have the ability to speak their minds and be protected under what Trump is trying to do. Will could do the same thing if he has a US contact.
I'll just be a
countries like that. Anytime
I'll just make a YouTube hedge fund of sorts, for like international content creators.
We're technically not a corporation.
Right. No, but
technically a non-profit.
Right. Well, exactly. And so like that's
we don't profit. I mean, look at me.
The Fellowship Fringe Society, that's what it'll be. It'll become like our own shell corporation for all the international content creators. And, we'll just make a clearinghouse for people to speak freely online.
Beautiful. All right, let's crack on.
The right to a specific explanation of the reason why and the right to a timely appeal. In addition, all users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation and...
Oh!
Yes! Woo! Let me have the hard edges and the rough stuff.
Well, yeah, but we'll
users
see.
over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of
there's got to be a but.
Content moderation and curation entirely and receive an unmanipulated stream of information if they so choose.
Oh, that means if you're watching, if you so basically you opt out of any kind of curation from YouTube and you'll just get the things that are actually the most popular and the most related to the tags that you search for.
Right.
That's what it sounds
you can
like.
Either have the safe mode, you can either have safe mode, which will be under their auspices, or
hand holding
like
mode,
personal freedom. Yeah, or you can have personal freedom.
So anyone
mode
over age of 18 will be able to decide what content is suitable for them.
Have the right
you missed this bit, right? Just listen to what he says there.
In addition, all users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation and curation. And
I mean, this matters for all the platforms too. We're not just thinking about YouTube here.
Right.
All search engines have this.
Unmanipulated stream of information if they so choose.
That's good. That's great for the end user. It not so relevant for content creators, but I mean, it does also mean that the tags you put in things and stuff will actually matter.
Right. And if you're doing this as a form of stewardship, like we've mentioned before, like children are not voters. They don't have the same kind of, rights under the law in the sense that, they need people to protect them and because they're in a naive state. And so, yeah, sure. If you want to have
had this job.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. If you want to have like a hand holding mode for people that aren't of, age to consent to have an unrestricted mode, that's all well and good. And if you are of age and you still want to have your hand held, fine, I'm not going to stop you, but don't fucking bring me down just because you can't handle the content. This is a much libertarians all over the world probably were having the hardest of hard-ons when they heard those words in this.
What, from a government program? Impossible.
Well, I mean, just in terms of what the concept is that it lays out,
All right,
because
let's wrap this up, and we can talk for a little bit longer if you want. Sorry, I know we're running over, but I didn't want to miss this because it matters.
The fight for free speech is a matter of victory or death for America and for the survival of Western civilization itself. When I am president, this whole rotten system of censorship and information control will be ripped out of the system at large.
Yes!
There won't be anything left.
Okay, I think I just had a sort of nerdgasm.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. This is what I'm saying. Like people who watch this video, you know.
I just like the way he uses this language, like it's going to be ripped out and at large.
At large, there won't be anything left by restoring.
There won't be anything.
I mean, he gives you
left.
like the you know
no. He's got
Push John.
and
For
then
one.
there won't be
the
anything
TLDR.
left.
Yes.
Free
Oh,
speech
but
will
Trump is
begin to
Putin,
reclaim our
dictator.
democracy.
Yeah. No, this is
Will
good.
begin to reclaim our democracy and save our nation. Thank you, and God bless America. If we don't have,
there you go.
Yeah.
Wow, what a towering, fucking monumental achievement that would be. That would be his legacy forever, no
Right.
doubt, no question.
And the Republicans would always be in power as well, simultaneously.
Nah, well, I mean, not necessarily. It would be fair if they start fucking up, then they would lose power. But
I mean, I think fundamentally,
it would be their game to fuck up and lose.
Well, yeah,
You know,
our side have been swimming against the tide for so long, though, Will, that if the institutional suppressive systems collapse and the playing field is leveled, it will mean our side will always win, at least for a generation, if not longer, because the opposition have had it always in, well, I say always, but in recent
you know
times,
the whole
in their
concept of the
favor.
pendulum swinging. Well, the pendulum has been duct taped to one side for the last 20 years, and now it's going to be allowed to swing again. So there's that. I put this as I did. I just put it as Dad's home. Hope you didn't think hastily cleaning your room was going to save you from the bell.
pretty much.
Oh, gee.
Pretty much.
I just saw Will linking a Trump thing, and it said Dad. I'm like, is Will okay? I'm just oh wait, no, he was trying to make a funny point.
Yeah, the fucking you love my pronouns. Thank you. Yes, pee poo, because fuck you. That's why, basically. That's why they are. Someone actually got arsy with me once. They said, "How am I supposed to take you seriously with those pronouns?" I said,
like,
"How am I supposed to take anyone with pronouns seriously?"
Right. Like
Anyway,
it's like the whole thing about the satire is there to like point out the ludicrous nature of things.
This is going to be great. This is going to be, if it goes the way he says it will, and I honestly don't see a way that it can be stopped, because they can't be guilty of insurrection after the last 4 years of saying what they've said and trying to blow up January 6th to be as bad, if not largely worse than 9/11, and turn around and flip off the president-elect and his forming administration.
Only politicking.
I also don't think they're competent to do it either.
Well, only politicking can slow things down, folks. So if I was, in the trenches making recommendations, I'd recommend a lot of Senate primaries for rhinos still in the still in the system, and I mean a lot.
Get them out.
Primaries. Yeah, Trump
They
loyalists
probably
need to be
will have
senators.
to. You need that. He's building his own branch, his own little sect of the Republican Party. Although, to be fair, based on the RNC, the Republican Party is his now. The rhinos are running. They have been for quite a while now.
Well, they're still in. Unfortunately, I know this is a topic for another. Yeah, I know this is a topic for another show, but unfortunately, they've still wrapped up the Senate, and they've wrapped up parts of the House. And considering the majorities are small, there's still a long way to go, folks. It's a very good start, but we need MAGA Republicans. We don't need the elephant. We need the squirrel. Okay. Need the squirrel. Right. Peanut for peanut.
Right.
Yeah, not for peanut.
Right. And that's what I was going to say to what you were talking about earlier. Like, if there's going to be any kind of way for this to actually be a pendulum swinging, if you want to keep the names Republican and Democrat because they're already there institutionally, sure, fine, whatever. But there has to be, rather than like what has been happening, which is all this derangement and, pointing at all the things that are like, that they think are wrong through the casting of, their projection, until they do the soul searching and actually say, all right, well, we fundamentally, lost sight of the end user is actually our boss. because that
Yeah,
like they
everyone
believe in
has.
this
The
ideas that
customer is always right. Yeah.
right, and so like stop trying to make people beholden to your control state. Your control state has to be beholden, to the thing that it's actually trying to, work for, and so a lot of these.
And
you,
he's
John's computer.
run out of his word allotment for this episode, it seems. Oh dear.
And he'll still be talking by the time
No, I won't. No, I won't. I see it when it happens. And I'm just
You're
like,
literally talking right now.
Only because I heard what he said. So
why I won't give John
This is going to turn into that Austin Powers thing where it's like, no, that was the first in a new line of questioning. Like, shut up.
No, the point. The point is I wasn't just prattling on endlessly. I was actually identifying a new point of conversation.
You shot me right in the arm. Oh, the pain is unbearable.
As soon as I actually have capable equipment and internet, this is going to be a completely different arrangement. I'm just telling you all now. Go ahead.
I'm still alive, only I'm really badly burned. So if you could just...
John's signal should be a special guest on Reality Base.
Yeah, change the icon to a noose. Anyway, I gotta get through these super chats and other donos, guys. We've got to wrap this show up, but it's been fantastic. A lot of people really appreciating it. I thought it might be a bit of a polarizing one because I don't usually do straight politics, but this shit matters, especially that last part. It is going to affect us. It's going to affect you. It is going to affect every single one of us, whether you're in the chat or on the panel or on another channel. And there is that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. But first of all, James Up came along and dropped 10. Wow. Amazing. Thank you very much for that indeed. Russia will never get a penny from Google. Ryan, that's an absolutely ridiculous claim. Russia's fine exceeds the total money in the entire world. On top of that, Russia is Russia and under sanctions.
My response to that, James, is very simple.
Okay, I guess there's no response to that. Let's not get him started again, though. It's been all like pro versus anti-Russia going on in the chat, so we'll sweep over that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Google has their own, set of circumstances that I can't talk about on YouTube. I hope not. I hope you're right. Don't know, frankly. Well, I guess
Russia was a communist country. It is now a nationalist country.
It's extremely capitalist.
And it's a model of inspiration. Those who are not fans of Russia, that's perfectly fine. I'm not a fan of the Soviet Union, but countries do change. Let's get out of this Cold War mindset, folks.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's been over 30 years since walking down.
Yeah. I don't have. I'm pretty neutral on Russia these days. Frankly, I don't have like an opinion about them, except kind of wish that they wouldn't keep invading places. But at the same time, I understand why they do. So yeah, Anyway,
the CIA started that conflict, but that's all.
Yeah, I thought you might say that. Majors Guild for 10 as well. Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate it. Yes, all right. Yeah, of course, on the subject of second channels, I'm going to create that channel, by the way, even if I don't use it for a while. He says, my second channel is at Star Wars Complained. I made it more of as a meme against Stone Star Wars. He told Star Wars Theory that his Star Wars Explained channel should have that name. I gave him 24 hours, then nabbed it. Okay, well, give me another 23 and a half for mine.
How's
okay?
about did you say Will of Rights? Because I think that is like an even better play of
Will of Rights.
Right.
No, not Will of the Rights, the Will of Rights.
Yeah, the Will of Rights, because like the Bill of Rights, the Will of Rights. It's great.
Just keep with the stupid will puns, why not?
Yeah, but Will of Rights is awesome.
I thought people are either going to think I'm an arrogant prick or they're going to find the sort of self-deprecating, see what I do.
You either get the joke or you are the joke.
Yeah, and fortunately people accepted it, so I'm kind of happy with that. So I guess
I need some Russian money for a hair operation. I'm going to start a channel called Reality Based Russia. Yeah.
Why don't you just change the spelling and put it in Russian letters.
Yeah, just make the R's backwards, you know?
Yeah, pick some P's and then C's instead of... I don't fucking understand that. Anyway, fair enough, Majors Guild. Give me a little more time. I'll try and grab that that name while I still have a chance. Eris Rhoda gifted 5 Will of the Fans membership. Thank you very much. You lucky people. And then Mephisto X also gifted 5 Will of the Fans membership. Thank you as well. Woo! What we got? People saying something about Kotaku. Oh yeah, right. There's no point in Kotaku existing anymore after Inauguration Day. Yeah, no, definitely not. I don't think they will exist.
They're not making it past tax season.
It's only 4 left.
Yeah, they're not making it past tax season. I swear that'll be the longest. They'll try to like it, they'll probably try to claim them as a loss this year, and then just be done with it.
Go Media's done with them. And Eris Rhoda once again for £5. Thank you very much as well. Now, I guess the Americans that we're friends with are awake because our SNH chat is popping off on my phone. Eris Rhoda for £5 then says we need our own UK simile for rhinos. I suggest tourists.
Oh, we do.
I like that. I like that a lot.
We do.
What?
It's called
The
the
Dems.
Tories. Yes, it's conservative
the Tories
party.
are in fact a parody of themselves at this point.
Yeah. We haven't had a conservative party since before World War
You
II.
do. You do have a conservative party now. It's called the Reform Party. But
the irony of that is accurate.
it is exactly the opposite. Yeah. But I like that. Tourists. I might keep that if I ever have occasion to use it. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate you all. Anything else? No, I think we're done. Up to date. Lovely. Thank you very much for your kind donations, to paraphrase Ryan. This episode is over. I'm glad everybody enjoyed the slightly deeper dive into Trumpism without, all of the screeching, reeing psychopaths. Although, if any more,
we had a little touch at the beginning, but frumpy bubbles, and that's what I'm calling the one with the glasses. Frumpy bubbles. That's going to be a meme that's going to stick with us for a decade. At least.
Oh, and enjoyed the Trump dance video. Yeah, thank you. Well, I just basically took Alex Jones's and stuck myself in it because I wanted to be part of it. And
How reality based, if you will.
Yeah, I figured if Ryan can do this shit, I might as well. Yeah, fuck it. All right, there we go. I appreciate you guys who stuck around extra late or got up extra early to catch the show. It really makes a difference, and I'm glad you're all enjoying it. We'll continue to keep on going and keep on growing. There you go, Ryan. Next episode is episode 60. That'll be Thursday, but of course we've got plenty until then. But first, outros. John Boy, would you like to say some things?
So after I get done with this today, I'm going to go have a conversation about getting some merch stuff set up. So like people can buy FN 2.0's takeover shirts possibly, or mugs, whatever. Try to actually earn some money. And then tomorrow I'm going to be on Tom B's Wednesday Chinwag. And that is kind of like an open rotation slot. So I'll be there fairly consistently, or as much as I possibly can be going forward. And then we'll be back here again on Thursday so I can talk about any of the other stuff beyond that. But the other kind of big thing that's looming, I talked to Scooby Pup last night. She is collaborating with me as kind of like a producer kind of role to help her kind of like bring her own YouTube channel into fruition and kind of like, do a little bit more, focused on her creativity. And then I can kind of, that thing we were talking about, women focus on what they're good at. We focus on what we're good at, and like, we'll come up with a better net result ultimately. So I'm going to try to be her back end engineer and producer kind of stuff and let her focus on her creativity. Yeah. So other than that, like I say, we'll be back on Thursday, and I'll have more stuff to talk about then. So safe travels ahead. Have a wonderful week going forward. And as always, be awesome as always. So, yeah.
Is my mic all right? Something funky just happened. Does it sound okay?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Sounds fine to me.
Ryan, you're up, mate.
Well, folks, thank you all very much for watching the 59th episode of Will of the Fans Live. It's always a pleasure to be on this show with Will and John. As for me, you can check me out over at Ryan Roger Athay. I'm the host and founder of Reality Based, and I'm also, well, I can't point to it now because Will brought up a chat. I'm also Mr. 480p. You're seeing me at 480p. I do all my videos at 480p. It reduces the time it takes to process. And if you've got a problem with that, you can go fuck yourself. I'm going to use that as a legitimate term because that got a right laugh when I said it on Saturday Night Hypnosis. Apparently, me saying this sounds predatory.
Mr. 480p, that's how much he charges for you to be able to give him a prolapse.
I might have to start doing that so I can not strobe out so much.
Well, 480p. That's his price for a prolapse. You don't want to be doing that, mate.
Look, no. I'm just talking about the roboting.
It's like cents in pounds.
In all seriousness, blooper. In all seriousness, though, ladies and gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to be on the show. Fingers crossed you'll check out Thursday's show. And a bit of advice for you, John. Say you received a donation. That way the tax man won't fist you every year. You accepted a donation from...
everything I get is donations. I mean, like, I don't... Yeah.
Donations are always welcome. There we go. So a little bit of reality-based advice for you all.
You're always taxed on it if it's YouTube.
Right. Well, thankfully, I have not been using YouTube for my donations at this point in time.
No, but they take what they take. Also, after they take their bit, then
you start to get taxed on it. Yeah.
When you receive your monthly payment from YouTube, it's like 15% less than what you thought it would be.
Right.
See, look, this is why we don't set up an economy channel, folks, because that wouldn't.
Because we don't know anything about money.
Exactly.
Anyway, it's at the end of the show.
We're not money men. We're just idea men.
We go now.
The guy who looks homeless giving you tax advice.
Right. If you're taking financial advice from me, you're fucked.
Say goodbye. Wave to the camera. Thank you, chat. Thank you, mods. Appreciate you all. We'll be back Thursday. And also a video of this came out a little while ago. So enjoy that as well. Take care. Bye bye. Bye 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 bye.
Morality, and now we're facing me as mortality. They've lost the plot, we'll take a stand. These corporations must perish, we'll reclaim our land. Enough is enough, we've drawn the line. We'll take back our stories of spark divine.